Well, perhaps I could say that since I think I met you about beginning of last year, and then I went off to Bellagio. And then when I came back, I heard that you had some unusual experiences, and then we were very busy at that time, so we didn't actually get to see you. But perhaps we could start discussing on that line.
Well, yes, they were indeed very unusual for me.
Uh-huh.
And instead of telling you how I got into that, it would perhaps be better for me to describe what actually I got into. You see, I got into a new state of being, as it were. Mr. Brian Mason was here at the time, and something triggered the whole series of changes in me. It came about in quite an unexpected way. One day, I think I've heard this before, but let me go over it all over again. See, one day I was lying here, you see, on the same sofa, and suddenly I found my body was missing, and then I opened my eyes and looked at myself. The body was intact. Closed my eyes, and then I found that my body was missing. But I didn't pay any attention to that. Next day, Brian was here for lunch and a few other friends. And I told him, yesterday I found my body missing and it hasn't come back to me yet. And then there was another friend here who practices homeopathy. And he said, oh no, something terribly wrong with you. It's something like the separation of body, you see. Let me go and get some homeopathic pills. He rushed to his hotel and brought some pills. But I felt that it was something more than the separation of body, And then a series of changes took place one day. I found that, my skin became suddenly very soft like a milk, And then the next day I found that my vision changed, and then my listening, and then my taste changed, and I found all my senses, 5 senses, started functioning as it were in a different kind of way. And the whole thing was so puzzling to me. I didn't know what it was, but yet somehow the whole thing became so panicky to me. I didn't realize what it was all about. And after a week, I suppose all these changes took almost a week. For all these changes to take place. One day the eyes, another day the ears, the third day the taste, and the fourth day the skin, and fifth day I don't remember what happened. On the 6th day, I was sitting there again, and then I felt all of a sudden that the life was simply ebbing out of me. And then I called her. I feel as if I'm going to die. I have come to the end of my life. But don't bother. I always told her, if something happens to me, hand over this body to to one of the hospitals. Don't bother about what to do with my body. And then she found me. The whole body turned blue, and I was terribly shaking. And And I felt as if life was ebbing out, you see, through every part of my body. I couldn't sit there, you know, and I moved over here and stretched myself. And you see, but then you see, the whole thing was sinking inside of me, you see, as it were, you see, like a vacuum cleaner.
You suck
Sucked out, and then you see, uh, I was in a peculiar kind of state. A bit, there, there was terrible pain in my head and the pain all over my body. And then the last thing, it's very difficult for me to go over all these things, but now by way of introduction, it is very necessary what happened, because all my memories are now fading out, and it's very difficult for me to recall with vividness what happened to me, but it's vaguely I remember. And then suddenly, you see, I felt that, you see, to use a simile, you know, the aperture of a camera trying to close itself, and something in me, you know, trying to keep it open. And then again, you see, the aperture was forcing itself to close down. I tried to keep it open, and suddenly, you see, it closed itself. And what happened afterwards, I didn't know, but after nearly an hour and a half, um, I, I came out of this, and and the whole past completely disappeared, you see, and I felt as if, you see, I had no past at all of any kind, and and I felt as if I was waking up from, you see, a deep slumber, as if for the first time in my life. It was a clean slate, and then I didn't sleep that night, you see, at all. It was a very disturbed night. The next morning, you see, on the seventh day, I woke up again, you see, as if I was waking up for the first time in my life. And then on, you see, the series of bewildering situations for me. Then the next day, you see, I was sitting here again. You see, I think by the time Brian had left and all the friends had left, suddenly, you see, the body began vibrating with a tremendously terrific vibrations, you know. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't control the vibrations. They were so terrific. And and wave after wave, you see, started coming up from here, you see, to the head, and then these waves trying to escape uh, through the brain, you see, or something through the head, and this went on, you see, for nearly half an hour, wave after wave, wave after wave, wave after wave, with greater and greater speed. And then I couldn't control myself, and yet, you see, I tried to hold on, and I called her something, something is happening to me, and she didn't know, and she said, you see, you can't do it by any volition of yours, something is all right, we have to put up with this, and it went on for half an hour, like that. And then I went to my room and stretched myself on the bed, and the whole night, you see, it's starting from here, from foot to head, this terrific wave after wave, like the ocean waves, it went on the whole night, the whole night. I didn't know what it was, I didn't bother to do anything, and this friend of mine who practices homeopathy, he came and he brought some more pills. But then I suddenly realized there is something more to it than, you see, than the way I am, you see, interpreting these things. But anyway, you see, let me wait and see. And then, you see, the whole of this spinal column, I felt suddenly it was raw, like a wound. The whole thing is, I couldn't rest myself, you see, on the back and turn myself this way, that way. And it was such a terrific pain here. Not only here, the whole head was painful, you know. And then from that moment onwards, you see, my awareness started changing, you know, all of a sudden. Uh, so I realized that I was in a state of a peculiar kind of awareness, you know. The awareness of things outside and the awareness of things inside. Uh, that was the beginning, you see. And then I go for a walk and I see the things and I don't know what they are, you see. and I look at her, and I don't know who she is.
You can't name her.
No, but you see, this is started this way. The naming process was not there, you see. She goes out of this room, and you see, she's out of my consciousness. She has been with me for 5-6 years every day. As long as she is here, as long as I am looking at her, she is here. But the moment she goes outside, and she goes out, you see, she doesn't exist for me at all. The noises she makes in the other room, you see, are not in any way related to her, you see. Something totally unrelated, these two things. And then you see this kind of a bewildering thing continued for days and days, and this pain in the head, and then I felt you see that some kind of a change was going on inside my body. You see, this is some kind of an awareness. You see that every cell in my body, you see, every gland in my body um, was hit by something like um, what do you call the lightning, and all the cells, you see, every part of my brain was undergoing some kind of a transformation, as it were, and every organ in my body, you see, I felt was undergoing some kind of a change. It went on for 3 weeks, but you see, I didn't pay any attention, and then you see, the breathing changed, my breathing. Suddenly I felt one day that you see, the air was escaping through here. You see, I breathe in, and suddenly I felt that you see, it was escaping through some part here. I looked at it, no hole here, but at the same time, it was escaping as it was here. Then you see, this David Barry was here one day, and he said, "You look here, old chap. You see, this is not a funny thing that you got into. You see, these are all this. He is very well read in the Hindu philosophy, mysticism, and yoga. He's a very well read chap, and he lived with the Hindu monks. And he said, you see, you have come into an extraordinary state of being, similar to that of the religious teachers. Don't treat it very lightly. And then you see, but I didn't pay any attention. So although I myself was a student of philosophy, I taught Indian philosophy. I lived with the monks for 7 years, practiced everything. It never occurred to me that this could be the thing which I wanted when I was young, you see, and worked hard and hard. And then I told him, you see, well, anyway, if it is so, you see, maybe it is so, I don't know. But I set out to go to New York, and built up a tremendous image, you see, and the God-dazzling things, and the beauty, the grandeur, the splendor of New York City. I thought I was going towards there, and suddenly, if it is this what you say it is, I find myself in a in a God forbidden, even the devil's forsaken place. This can't be this thing, and then it is something as it were in me. There was nothing there inside of me, and he said, "You see, this is what you have been asking for. This is not that. You see, that was only an image you built for yourself, but this is actually the thing." And I said to myself, "You see, indeed, I played with some kind of a dynamite. I didn't want this kind of thing. Anyway, I can't do anything about this. I have to stay with this." I told myself, and then you see, this bewildering things continued for weeks and weeks. Everything I look at it, you see, the word doesn't come into my mind. And I look at a rose, and then I have to ask her, what is that flower? And she says rose, and we take a few steps more, and then I ask her the question again, you see, what is that? You see, this is rose. Like a baby, what's the matter with me, And with regard to everything, you see, everything I look at the tape recorder there, you see, and then the question arises in me, what is that? So then I had to ask her again, this kind of thing, you see, went on for months and months and months like this. Then I said to myself, you see, what is the point in asking this question to yourself? If you see a flower, you see, just forget it, you see. There is not even a flower to me. What it is, you see, God alone knows. So why should you ask yourself, what is that? You see, what does it matter whether it is a flower or a tree or a monkey or a donkey? It doesn't matter. But you go on questioning yourself every now and then. Every time you look at, I ask, what is your name? It looks like you're living in a madhouse, as it were. And then this I couldn't contain these. You see the force of this, the energy that was generating inside of me. You see, the day after day, I felt that I couldn't possibly contain this. You see, and I must do something about it. At that time, Deskachari was here, and then I talked to him about this. He had explained to me, see, this is supposed to be, see, the state of being that all the religious teachers have come into, and you have come on the reverse gear. And we all struggle, work hard, and go through the mill for years and years and years. And I don't know what kind of special flowers you offer to Goddess Durga in your previous life. But anyway, you have it, and you see, and you must do something, you see, to control, you see, the escape of this energy out of your body. You come to India, we'll consult my father, and he is supposed to be an authority on yoga. So then I decided to go to India, but this continued for 4 or 5 months.
You did, yeah.
No, here, you see, this, but I was sick, totally and completely sick. You know, I did nothing but rest inside, you see, and watching, you see, what would be the outcome of this all. And then I went to India, and he suggested that I should go to a 48-day course of yoga and breathing exercises, and also some kind of a diet restrictions, a very bland food, milk and rice and some fruits and vegetables for 48 days. He thought I would be able to control this, you see. Not I would be able to control this. Somehow, you see, it will moderate its effects on the physical body. And then he felt that I should go on for another 48 days. So I went on with the course, and it did help me to contain, to moderate the effects of these changes inside of me. And then you see, I am still continuing the yoga lessons. And now it is something very natural to me. So there is no bewilderment. The awareness inside and the awareness inside and outside. These are the two things that are all there for me. And so when I look at something, see, there is no problem for me to ask what it is, but that has an effect on me, you see. And so you see suddenly somehow you see the machinations of the mind or the mental activity came to an end, you see, without any volition, without any effort on my part. And then you see the body took over, you see, as it were, and the sensitivity of the senses, you see, became extraordinarily sensitive.
That's still so.
It is so. It is always so. What I am left with is only the body, and there is nothing inside of me except the life. You see, it's throbbing through every part of the body. That is all.
Yeah, so when you use the word I,
But that's only a mode of communication. It's the first person singular I have to use. Not that there is, you see, the consciousness of the I all the time. But the whole structure has come to an end because there is no such thing as a center in me at all. And all the reactions are the bodily reactions to the environment, to the things around. I don't know if I have explained it. Maybe we can go into it and talk about it further. You see. I don't know if I have communicated it. If we go into it further, perhaps.
Maybe
Yes.
So how do you know, for instance, when you're supposed to name the rose of rose, how in your mind begin to remember that it was necessary to give a name
Well,
for that?
it's a very simple process. I can now, you see, describe that. You see the process, you know. All right, you look at a flower. You see, it is not that I am looking at the flower. The flower is looking at me. You see, the flower is looking at me because you see the eyes, you know. The eyes, as long as the eyes are open, they have to look at something or the other. If I close my eyes, then there is no problem at all. So if there is a tree, there is a tree, but I don't look at it as a tree. You see, the color is not there. If I use the word object, you see, the communication is very difficult. You see, so when you when you look at an object, if I use the word object, the difficulty is to communicate exactly what it is there inside of me.
So what happens? The object becomes you.
No, the object doesn't become me.
But you say the word object now.
Now, how to communicate this to you? See, I see you.
Yeah.
I see you, for instance.
Right.
I see her.
Yeah.
These are two different things. You see, how do I know that you are two different? That you are a woman and that she is a man? So because the light falls on you, your shape is different, your hair is different, the color of your clothes are different, and he has a different build, has a different shape, and there is a space between you. You are sitting on that sofa. Actually and factually, you are not. Please excuse my way of putting it. You are not different from the sofa. You see, that's just a different. If I say color, you see.
So it is a description.
Is it? No, there is nothing here. I am looking at all the things here. You see, that is the. If I say that the chair, how do you distinguish? You see, the human being from the chair. See, because you are all moving. Obviously, you are animate things, and the others are animate things. Because the light is falling on you. You see, the retina. It's just like a camera lens. You see. If I turn this side, you don't exist for me. What is there? You see, the eyes look at it. If I want to, yes, I know his name, I know who he is, and the whole thing is, whatever I know, this is there in the background. If there is a need, who decides the need? I don't decide the need. The situation decides the need. You see, whether this information can be of any value, the situation. So the moment I see him, I don't even recognize him. But you see, so at the same time, there are certain courtesies.
Yes, correct.
You know, common decency. We live in this world. And so you see, the common decency suggests that I should say hello to him. You understand? So the word is there for me to supply hello or good morning. So the situation decides, each situation decides when and how the information that is there inside is necessary or is to be used. You see, when that is over, you see, I say hello, and then it's some kind of a declutching. You see, automatically it is declutched, and then we are back again. You see, in the same way I am looking at him.
Yeah.
And you see, because there is a movement inside him, you see, the movement of life. It is, you see, there is a movement of life. You see, so these two living things. Not these processes. There is no thinking at all.
Yeah.
You see, because the very recognition of any object, you see, as the difficulty is if I use the object, the very recognition of anything, you see, as an object or as you see, or as a name, the thought comes in. So that means it is a waste of energy. See, the thought is a waste of energy. So ordinarily, the thought does not come into my mind, come into being at all. And yet, you see, there is already, you see, something that is going on, because you see, you are affecting me, not that I am affecting you. You see, if I see a thing, what you call a beautiful rose, you see, I don't call it a rose. Number one, I don't know what that color is, right? And then you see, I don't even call it a beautiful thing. Maybe next to that you have very deep yellow grass flowers. The eye automatically goes to them and not to this. Because the deep colors, you see, always, you see, the eye goes straight, not the eye goes, that attracts the eye, and the retina captures that, you see, so the most beautiful flower has no importance at all. The green, the deep yellow color is a grass flower, it goes straight there. That may be the reason why, you see, the mystics always talked of the dewdrop in a grass. Because the reflection of the sun is very wide, and so the eye goes straight there. Not the eye goes there, but that attracts, you see, the eye, and not I am looking at it, you see, and that has an effect. It has a physical effect on me, because there is nobody else inside. There is no mental activity of any kind. Whatever you see is there in the environment. That affects the body. And how do I know that affects the body? See, because you see, if I take a walk from here to the start, this is a very beautiful valley, number one. I don't call it beautiful. I have no choice. So if there is, you see, a very picturesque landscape, which we call a picturesque landscape, I don't call it. So the eyes are fixed straight, you see, on that, you see, and the eyeballs become very fixed, they don't move. And that you see, the beauty of that landscape, or whatever it is, immediately you see, has a reaction on me because I take a deep breath. You see, so it is a breathtaking view, obviously. Otherwise, why would I take it? And then you see, I walk a few steps further, I see a cow moving. You know, I don't call that a cow. It's like it's a newborn baby. You place her, you look as if you have never looked at the cow. You see the waving of the tail and the head. You see the moving, the horns, and it's not that nothing is going on inside me. I am describing it in order to communicate, not communicate, to describe, you see, a state of being at that particular moment. So you see, you are there at that particular, whatever the eyes see at that particular moment is all that is there for me in that world. That's all, there is nothing else. I move a little and then you see something else comes. If there is anything of a beautiful thing around me, it immediately it has an effect on me. So I breathe again and again and again. This breathing process goes on and on and on. And this breathing has an effect inside of me because the oxygen enters, you see, every cell in my body. You know, here I must mention, you see, what the Hindus call the chakras, you know. You may have heard of. You see, the center, they started all of a sudden. You see, I still have some of them, you see, and they appeared all over, you see, the 34 spots appeared on my body. And the chakras, wherever the chakras are supposed to be, they are not chakras, but to me, the dormant glands in the body have suddenly become active, you see. What triggered this process is very difficult because when once you see, this stepping out process takes place, the triggering device is already there inside of you. It's automatic, and so the triggering device perhaps has set in motion. You see, the whole process and all these dormant, and particularly here, you see. Now perhaps you can't see. The lotus appeared is on my forehead. This perhaps is the pineal gland or the pituitary gland or some glands, the new glands, all the dormant glands. And here, the pituitary gland, all of them is by somehow it's activated. And this breathing, you see, it's like a barrel fluid. When it goes, you see, it takes turns like this and spreads to every nerve center in my body. And I become aware of this process because you see there are 64 spots on my body. You see where I feel the pulse, not only here and here, but in 64 spots. You see the throbbing of the life is felt by. I become aware, not felt by somebody. And so you see this, and then again when I breathe out, you see the same process goes on, and the whole body is heated up as a result of this. Breathing in and breathing out, and then you see it produces large quantities of saliva, and so I have to swallow that saliva. The moment this saliva goes inside, you see, it generates electricity inside the body, and it goes on and on and on. Whether you look at it as an object there, or whether you listen to your music, or whether no matter what you do, I have no choices. I can't say this is I'm going to listen to something this or going for a walk. If naturally I take a walk because the body needs some exercise, and so I usually take a walk. Or if I sit here and I look out of the window, I can sit there and look out of the window for the rest of my life. It's because every time I look out, it's something new, so, which I have never seen before. Every day I see this, and every automobile that's going there, it's a moving thing. If I call it thing, because what it is, you always wonder, you know, the moving thing on the road. And then it's one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. These automobiles come different colors with different shades. So you can go on looking at them because there's nothing else to do. You see, at this particular moment, if there is something, you see, something to do. Yes, for instance, you see, he told me that you would all be coming here at 4 o'clock. I was ready by 3:45. If there is nothing there for me, I go inside of my room and rest. When there is no awareness outside, there is an awareness inside. And what is that awareness inside? Means you become aware of the movement of your body, the blood, the heartbeat. I listen to the heartbeat, you see, and so it's very interesting to listen to one's own heartbeat. That's possible only when the outside sounds are not there. But there is all the time this tremendous, what shall I say, this state of uh, silence. You know, it's not silence means not the absence of sound at all. The sounds are there, but no distinction whether somebody is playing is a piano there or somebody some screeching, screaming noise some there. You see, or the utensils noise there. They are all the same. You see, they come and hit you. See, that's all. You see, the sound is there, and when you look at it, the things are there, and what am I saying? Uh, and so, you see, I can stay in my bed, you see. And there is no such thing as hunger for me, you see, because I don't feel the chemistry of the body needs food. And so I take food at regular intervals to keep the body going. Otherwise, I feel weak. For days and days, I didn't take food at all. And I felt weak because there is no such thing as hunger at all. That seems to be the only thing that the body needs. You see, the body has to be, what is left is only the body. And, and so the body has to be maintained in a perfect condition, and and so you see this goes on and on and on and on. You see, day after day. Um, it's an interesting thing. It's an extraordinarily for the first time. You see, you feel that this is the way to live. You see, the way the people live is something terrible because you see there are conflicts, contradictions, and why they worry themselves over all these things because this is the way to live. You see, that is not the way to live. And then how to um, um, how to um, how should I put it? Why you see this, these people come with all kinds of questions. You know, when I meet friends here, they come here, they ask hundreds and thousands of questions because you see there are no questions for me at all. What has happened is you see um, we all sought something and we seek something. We are seeking something. It is not that you have arrived at this destination or that you have found what you have sought or all your life, but the 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 search has suddenly come to an end. You see, and this is that means you see there is no questioner inside of me. I am not only questioning, not questioning what is this, what is that, what is that, and what is this, but also the so-called deeper problems. You see, what is this life? What is life? Is there any meaning in this world? In our existence, has life any purpose? Or the universe around you, how this whole thing has come into existence. Uh, the perfect, you see, all these questions, you see, are trivial, you see, because there is no questioner who is asking any questions of any kind anymore inside of me. And so why do they ask all these questions? Of course, there are basic questions. If I want to go to the railway station, naturally, if I ask, if I don't know, if I will ask somebody. These are the questions of the day-to-day existence. But there is no questioner at all inside of me. No questioner asking any questions of any kind anymore. The questioner has disappeared. Not that I have found the answers for all these questions, or it's not a matter of saying that the metaphysical questions have no answers. It's not any of those things. It is just that the questioner has just disappeared all of a sudden. By some luck, if you want to say, by accident, or how I don't know. You see, up to a point, you can trace what happened, and then there is a leap, you see. And this leap is very difficult to describe how it happened. I really don't know why it happened and what triggered the whole the series of changes inside me. It is very difficult to um, uh, to find the missing link between the two. You see, I can only say by some luck, you see, or if you want to say, if you believe in some kind of a grace, this is by grace of whom I wouldn't know at all. Somehow, you see, the whole thing happened, and here I find myself is completely uh, a living human being living for the first time. If you well, for the first time, the living quality has an opportunity. The living quality inside of me has an opportunity to express itself in an extraordinarily sensitive way and taking in everything that is there, whatever is presented. And to be in this state of, what shall I call, awareness, it's a rub coin, it's awareness, not in the sense in which the psychologists use the word, but, and perhaps Krishnamurti's phrase, in a state of choiceless awareness, because I have no choices of any kind. Whatever is presented to me at that particular moment is all that is there for me, to look at or to listen to. There is no need for me to close my eyes either, because as long as the eyes are open, I see. The ears listen to the things, and if I touch something, something is hot, something is soft, and there is no body consciousness even. So this is perhaps what the Hindus call it. Sahaja Samadhi is a natural state of, and sometimes this goes into a different kind of a state, as it were. Not that I live on different levels. The awareness disappears. Even the awareness disappears. That's a thing which I can't bring into being. It comes by itself, uninvited. I can't be a thing about it to bring that state into being. It is something like saying to myself, I'm going to dream a beautiful dream. You can't say it. So all of a sudden, from nowhere, and this kind of a thing descends as it were on you. This is the only thing I feel, that somehow something is descending, on me, filling the whole being. And it begins, with this kind of peculiar feeling, the anesthetics, if it goes, they give the anesthetics or anesthesia, whatever you call it. The whole process, the brain becomes so dull, and suddenly the whole awareness, disappears, and the body becomes, for all practical purposes, it is dead, as it were, because the body becomes very stiff. I prefer to lie down rather than sit at the time, because the eyes, I prefer to close my eyes. I can keep my eyes open. Whether I keep my eyes open or closed, it's of no importance at all. All of you disappear for me, because the eyes are open and yet I see nothing. So there is no awareness even there. And then this lasts sometimes 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 3 hours. I know what happens, because it begins here, and the whole head becomes so tightening process. It's some kind of a tightening process takes place inside, and then it's some kind of a blow up. Blow up. If you are off completely, nothing exists for me. Even if I keep my eyes open, they become bloodshot, as it were, and I can't see anything at all. And I prefer to lie down during that period. Sometimes it lasts for half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. And those who look at the body, they know that it is like a stone. Can you understand what happens to the body in that state? So that's the thing which I don't know at all.
It becomes almost very pale. It is like yellowish, bluish yellowish, and like alabaster or something like that. Really very much like a corpse. And the whole head sinks and is absolutely motionless. It can last very long, motionless.
Obviously, the signs of life are there. It's the heartbeat. I hear up to your point, the heartbeat, the pulse, and the brain waves. And the
breathing is very, very slow.
The breathing becomes practically unnoticeable, as it were. And then when I come out, suddenly then I realize that I'm still, the life is still there. And this sometimes happens 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Nobody can say when this comes and why this comes, how this comes. Somehow.
You can at any time, if somebody comes or there is some disturbance, in a second he just clear.
There is a completeness about it.
In no moment is unclear, so between both, either he is off, as you said, or he is perfectly present.
Well, of course, it's known that in investigations of the brain structure, that awareness depends on something in the base of the brain, which can be affected, for example, by various chemicals, such as
But
serotonin.
what has happened to me is, you see, the brain that we have in common with the animals.
Mm-hmm.
You see, this has undergone, you see, a radical change, as it were. How do I know? You can very well ask me the question.
Yeah.
You see, because this process of the billions of cells we have in this brain, they say that we have 10 billion cells and then 100 billion minor cells connecting. This, and the cells inside the bones also, you see, underwent a radical mutation, if I may use that word. Because when there is a change in the cell, when there is a sudden death, you see, of the center, the eye, or whatever you call inside of you, takes place, and this body has got to undergo a transformation. So every gland in my body, every cell in my body has undergone a radical mutation. Why I use the word mutation? Because I can't think of a more appropriate word. You see, this process went on and on and on for, you see, because I could feel, I could be, not feel, I was aware that, you see, this process of change going on. It's just like, you see, the blood rushing in, you see, and then, you see, the change is taking place, you see. Every cell in my body has undergone a transformation. Every gland has undergone a transformation because it seems to be functioning, you see, in a different way. And also this is one thing which I would very much like one of these days, if I had an opportunity, to the brain waves, you know, the brain waves are terrific. And the electricity that goes out of my body is tremendous, you know, since there is no point inside of me, there is no space for me at all. And if I close my eyes, I tried all these. You see, I'm very skeptical about the whole business, But anyways, this is why, that's why perhaps they have used the word enlightenment or elimination. You see, when I close my eyes, you see, there is light here. You see, the whole thing is filled with light, as it were. There is no body at all. There is no body consciousness. Whether I keep my eyes open or closed, it doesn't make any difference. I can look at this, whose hand it is. I wouldn't know at all. You see, if I touch it, it's this is a. If I call it, yes, this is a hand, but whose hand it is? Next question, awareness. But there is no awareness of the body at all. There is no body at all. And this I experimented. The light penetrates through the eyelids. You know, when you close the eyes, and there is a hole here, as it were. This is some kind of third eye or whatever you want to call it. I padded these eyes with thick cloth, and still you see there was light inside, because there is some kind of a hole here inside. I don't know, but you see the light penetrates through that, and the whole body is filled with this light. I sit there, and there is light inside. That's perhaps the reason why they call it enlightenment or illumination. And then you see it expands. The current that the electricity that is generated in this body goes, as it were, to the end of the universe. You see, affecting the whole thing. And when I come out of this state, whatever you call it is, the whole body is filled with some kind of a substance, like the white substance. The whole body is filled with this white substance. You can look at it and it shines like it's phosphorescent. It's the whole body, and so that is perhaps the reason why what this process is. I don't know. I'm not interested there, even in finding out what is this. If they have some theories, it's for them to. One of these days, perhaps they will find out. The medical technology will certainly discover the dormant glands inside the body. They say that we have so many glands inside the intestines. They don't know why they are there and what function they perform. They really don't know. Perhaps one of these days they will go into the whole thing and find out. But to me, it is, you see, what I am left with, if I may put it that way, is a pure and simple physical being. But yet, you see, this body is a different body, and the consciousness that is operating, if I may use that word, after all, there is no difference between life and consciousness. Life is consciousness, consciousness is life. And it's a consciousness of a different quality, Well, that is all that there is to it. But the next question is, I have no question at all, no questions at all. And this is the way to live, you see, for the first time, you see. If human evolution, I have repeated this several times, I don't know if human evolution has any purpose at all. If it has any purpose, this seems to be the end product of the human evolution. This mutation has changed the whole animalistic content of the brain, especially this part of the brain which is common with the animal. This is my guess or about why I make such a statement. This may be the reason, because you see, for the first time, you see, somehow you have become a flower. You have flowered into a real human being. The possibility of the human evolution flowering into a human being is there. That is all what I am going to stress. You see, there is a state of being. This was my fundamental question. You see, I started very early when I was 14. What is the basis, what is there behind and beneath all the religious concepts we have in this world today? Is there anything at all? If there is anything at all, the people who are around me were all frauds. Frauds in the sense, I use the word fraud in a different sense. They're all mental experiences, you see, within the field of thought. This itself is I myself went through the various kinds of mental experiences within the field of thought. And when this and so you see, they didn't have the real touch of the source, you see, of the origin of these, except perhaps one person I met, Ramana Maharshi, not this Mahesh Maharshi of the Beatles man. He lived in India in a small village. Somehow I felt that he had this somehow. It was my assumption. And the second person I met naturally was Krishnamurti. But I have always had this nagging doubt about this chap. You see, I hammered him, you see, day after day, you see, for weeks, you see. What is it that you have? You see, do you have anything at all? I'm not interested in the abstractions you are throwing at me. This is kindergarten stuff. I know all this because I have been to the mill and I know every bit of it. A bit of psychology, I have studied psychology. I know all that. I'm not interested in your abstractions, you see. This, you see, any intelligent man can do. But what is there? Is there anything at all? So that was my question. Not that I have found it doesn't matter to me. If he has it. If he hasn't, it is his tragedy and the tragedy of those who follow him. That is no more a question for me. But is it the same? You see, I don't know. Perhaps it is the same. It can't be different. What is there behind it? So there is no comparative thing inside of me. These questions don't interest me at all, whether he has it or not. So this must be the basis, because you see, of the religious experience, not our experience. Experience is a very trivial thing. You see, the mind can experience the many states of experiencing, but this is something beyond thought. You see, this is a thing which the thought can never penetrate. See, that state, you see, where this action takes place, if I may use that word, action. I have no way of knowing what is happening at that time, but yet there seems to be some kind of an awareness, and there is a difference between sleep and this state. There seems to be some kind of something is aware of something else. You see, the Hindu religious thinker said the immensity is aware of its own immensity, or that is aware of that, and I would call it the life is aware of itself. He said something is there, but the thought can never penetrate and say what it is. You see. And to talk of that state is when I come out of it, there is a tremendous state of relaxation. You see, the whole body is in a state of relaxation, which you can call it bliss, love, truth, God, reality, or anything you like, but it is not that. You see, because there is nobody who is looking at it and who says, here, if I want to get a word, you see, I can bring out the word and say that this is a microphone. Or I can look at it and say, this is what is there, the awareness inside of me, you see, how the air is moving inside of me. But this thing, I have no way of finding out a word to communicate and tell you what that is. If I use the word bliss, it's not bliss. Perhaps it is bliss. What is it? You see, that state is is a thing. The thought can, after all, thought is a word. If I have no word at all to describe that, and to use any of these words, love, truth, God, reality, or anything, it is not right to use these words, and they are the inadequate um, words to express a state of being which is beyond words. It doesn't mean that it is beyond words, because there is no way of my of describing that state of being. Um, in that state, something happens. What something happens? The body is you are dead and you are born again. It's a complete. It's a process of living and dying, and there's no difference between life and death at all. The continuity is gone once and for all. I talk, I say after 2 hours, the whole slate is wiped out and it's clean. It's what is there for me in that room, or the next thing is, then it writes itself again and then it wipes itself. If there is anything of importance, the factual memory, there is only one memory, and that you see records it there, and if there is any use for it, it comes, otherwise there is no use. I read the Time magazine, you see every phrase is implanted in that, you see. Because I don't take any position while I'm reading, I just read it. Just to keep myself in touch with what is happening in the field of human thought and also in the world. I read it. You see, yesterday I was reading the definition of death. It's a science article. But all this, every phrase is, if it comes when there is a need for me to express something, the phrase is there ready, you see, supplies. The information is there ready. The whole encyclopedic knowledge that I acquired is there in the background, but if there is a need, it's who is to decide the need? It's the situation.
Yes.
It's what I am describing. You see, I have a difficulty now to describe this, because it's very difficult for me to bring these words to look at that and describe it. It's not looking at, you see. To describe the state is very difficult with these words. There is always a gap. You know, so it's looking and it's describing, and then you see the next word. It's not that I am struggling, or not that somebody is trying to bring out or anything. It has to come out of in its own way, the word, to describe the awareness inside of me in this particular moment. That seems to be the
Are you aware of time?
time. There is no time, there is no space at all. These are all bold statements, because the thought is time, and there is a thought, you see, there is time. There is, because with as long as you see, I'm aware of the things outside, there is a space. Yes, I'm looking at the things. They are spaced in their own way. Because I have a vista vision now, you see, as it were, I see much more. The eye takes in completely the 100%, and they say, the ophthalmists say that the eye cuts out 98 and lets in only 2. So, but now it is, since there is no choice of any kind, you see, so it takes in the whole thing, as it were, and I have a complete vision, but not behind. You see, if I want to look, I have to turn the whole body, especially when the eyes are fixed. You see, I can't look down at, on my own body, or you see, there I can see, now I can't see. You see, so I have to turn this side, and this is the only time when I'm aware of it. Not that I'm aware of the space. There is a space often by itself. It's not because of there is somebody who is looking at it. When there is, you see, when I want to recognize this Palace Hotel, there is a space. You see, the dot has come in and there is a space. If I close my eyes, there is no space at all, because there is no center here at all. The light is part of the whole space. Not to say that I am the space is not correct. Because the light inside is, it has no frontiers. You see, it has no frontiers. I want to explain this simile again. May I take that lesson? Yes, I want that. This I explained to you the other day. You see, the concept. You see, this is the social consciousness, or the mind of the whole world. You see, and this is the enclosure. This is the eye which I have built through not generations, at least from the beginning. It's like a baby. You say, this is a microphone, and she repeats it. Next time, and she sees it, she repeats it. This is microphone. That is how you see the whole the word structure is built up, and also they say, you see, but every cell carries the cumulative knowledge from generations. It's going on. The 14 million years of past, it is there in this individual. So this wall is the eye. It's a very difficult thing to break it. If you loosen one brick, you immediately put a plaster and and you close it. This is actually not different. The human mind or the human consciousness or whatever you call it is not different from the social consciousness. And so somehow by some process this knocks itself off. I can't do it. The more effort I put into this, you see, the more methods I use it, the more difficult it becomes, because this is a strengthening factor. If somehow, you see, this structure collapses once and for all, what is here is outside. But this explosion, this is not an ordinary thing. This is something like a nuclear explosion. It's of a terrific nature. When this explosion takes place, naturally the whole human consciousness as a whole is affected by this. Why do you make such a bold statement? You may very well ask me the question. Because I feel that, you see, this every time it's not once that it takes place, the explosion, it goes on. It's a chain reaction, series of explosions. Every now and then they are taking place. And then you see the fallout is affecting the human consciousness. This seems to be the only way we can affect the world, you see, by bringing about, you see, a structural change within myself, not through any other process. You are not going to change the world at all. This is bound to be a very microscopic effect on the world. And similarly, since the enclosure is not there, it's, the whole the whole space. It's not that I am the space. To say that I am the space is an absurd thing. And so this seems to be, there is no separation between, you see, the things, whether I keep my eyes open or closed, is the material. What is the difference? Because these are two holes here, looking at things, looking at what? You see, looking at, but if there is a need for me to that is the Gestalt Palace Hotel. You see, or if I want to go to their home, I know. It's not that I don't know. You see, why you want to go this, what purpose, these are all, you see, of no importance at all. And so, you see, for the first time when the thinker has no existence at all. You see, he's an artificially created, built-up thinker. He has taken possession of the body, you see, and he has dominated for years and years and years, and so somehow he has been displaced. He is not there anymore. And what we are left with is, you see, this and the thoughts. The thoughts, you see, how do you become aware of the thoughts? What is thought? As long as the thinker is there, it is impossible for you to look at the thought. Impossible. Because the thought splits itself into two. One thought is looking at the other, one image looking at the other, you see. There is no way of looking at your thought. It is impossible. Only when you step outside the whole structure of the individual consciousness and social consciousness, there is a possibility of finding out how the thought originates in you. How the thought originates. It's very simple, because it has no content. It has the thought has been part of the human consciousness right from the beginning. You see, you can't trace the origin. Perhaps that's the reason why you have the statement in the Bible: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was the flesh. You see, so it is a matter, and at the same time, it is a sound. It's some kind of a. I'm very diffident to use these terms in your presence. So it is. The thought comes. Why it comes, you see, you don't know. The thought sometimes comes. It's like an electronic eye. When the thought comes, you see, the circuit is the awareness is disturbed. You become aware of the thought. This very awareness destroys the thought. So you see, there is no scope for the thought to take roots there and you see, bring the thinker in, unless there is a need. You see, that situation decides. You see, how long the thought is necessary and what part the thought can play. Otherwise, you see, sometimes for no adequate reason, from somewhere, it's not here. The brain is not there. So they come through, as it were. Let me qualify that. So the ears, because the thought is a word and word is a sound. So this sound has been in existence through centuries. So sometimes you see, the thoughts come from this, as it were, from this ear and goes through this. This is a sound, I say. And thought is of no importance at all. Thought has no importance at all anymore. When there is a need, when there is a necessity for the thought, it is there. It's not that I'm thoughtless. The thoughts that come in, there is nobody who says this is right, this is wrong, this is a pleasant thought, that is an unpleasant thought, and There is nobody who is saying that, you see. So it is of no importance if thought comes or comes there. And the feelings come, you see, the feelings hit me, you see, here, you see, the heart, all kinds of feelings, you see. And what that particular feeling is, you see, nobody to say this is a sex feeling, this is a feeling of irritation, this is a feeling of jealousy, this is a feeling of envy. All these are not there. The one after the other, they hit you. You look at this flower there, and that hits you. If you look at this moving car, that hits you. You look at this an animal there, and that hits you. You look at what you call a beautiful place, that hits you. And so you see, you don't know what they are. They are just one after the other, one after the other. You see, the bombarding. You know, this molecular bombardment of this. They are all here, and then the heart is the whole body is vibrating with all these vibrations that come from us. They are all vibrations, as it were. And yes, as you go along, you see all these vibrations, the feelings, what we call feelings, so it's of no importance at all. Sometimes if the thought comes, it comes, and the awareness, it's like a torch, satellite, falling. As it is rising, it is destroyed. If any of these old memories of mine, you see, some try to penetrate, sometimes these old memories come, and so you see, you become aware of that. You see, this is a nasty thought. You see, you had towards some individual, and so you see, when it enters, you see, the awareness watches that, and then you see the whole brain cells become so tight here. The thinker is here, not here. The words come here and go away, but the whole tightening process takes place inside the head, and it has no place anymore to take its root. It's gone. So the thoughts come and go. Sometimes there are no thoughts. It's like, you see, the electronic eye, they come, and the moment they come, it's a simultaneous process. As the thought comes in, the awareness also is disturbed, and at the same time the awareness destroys the thought. It is a quick process. So it is of no importance at all. It's of no importance at all.
I don't think I understand that may be the main point, because you see a thought coming in which disturbs the mind and builds up. You see,
yes.
And if you could discuss the question of the root of thought. You say you don't know, but
you see, I don't put that question to myself, because you see, it's all right if I put my questions. No matter what question you ask or anybody asks, you see, first I start with a state of not knowing. I really don't know. Any question, what is mind, if you ask me, see, for me to get up on a platform and talk about mind is one of the absurd things. It's because what is mind? You see, somebody asks me a question, because there is nothing here. There is no, I don't know. That's a silly. Why do you want to ask a question? What is mind? And all right, you see, then I want to see the exploration begins. What is the exploration? You see, the thinker has to come in, and the thought process develops. What is the mental activity is not mind. You see, for all practical purposes, the mental activity is the mind. All right, you see, if the mental activity comes to an end, you see, that is one of the most extraordinary experiences, that itself. You see, if you can experience that, the quietening of the mental activity, the quiet mind, the experience of a silent mind, that changes the whole process of thinking. That is how all the conversions have taken place, the mystical experiences or even the scientific experiences in the field of thought. It is still within the field of thought. So, for instance, you see, it would be impertinent for me to talk of Einstein. So I did physics for my basic degree. So as long as we were all caught up in the Newtonian physics, nobody could break through. But you see, Einstein is somehow by some process, you see, realized the inadequacy of the Newtonian thought, and that itself, you see, acted as a breakthrough. Now we connect them. We know, you see, without our Newtonian physics, Einstein would never have come into existence at all. So as a flashback, you see this, but there at that particular point, you see, he had to. The mental activity had come to a point, to the end, as it were, but not actually. But again, it caught that experience and created the thought structure. So this revolution is within the structure of thought. Any such revolution within the structure of thought is a revolution in itself, but the thought structure is still there. You see, that is a mystical experience or an epoch-making scientific discovery. They are the results of, and which brings about, you see, a change in character, the conversions, all the conversions we have in the history. One of the mystics in in Europe, I forget her name, a prostitute, suddenly in her 25th year gets this mystical experience and illiterate, and she picked up a few words and she wrote books, poems in the language of the streets, and which was the basis and inspiration of Dante. So it was within the field of thought, the mystical experience or religious experience or the experience within the field of thought changes the human consciousness, the individual consciousness, not the human consciousness, the individual consciousness. From that moment on, your way of looking at things, as if you have a new glasses, everything you look at it is different. Every activity of yours is different. Every movement of your thought is different. It has undergone a change, a radical change, but but still within the field of thought. So the mental activity bringing the mental activity to a quiet, to some kind of a silence is not the end of it. You see, although that itself can perform a miracle. That is the first loosening of the whole process of this structure, the first loosening process. And then you see the memory of the brain cells. Every cell has a memory of its own. The nerve ends, the whole human body, you see, has to change. It has to become silent. In this case, the whole thing is silent. Every part of the brain cell, all the 10 billion, 100 billion cells, they become silent because there is a tremendous silence. This silence is of a different quality and of a different kind. It's not of the mind at all, not within the field of thought. And so you see, you go on and on and on and on and on, you come to a point where you see you will not be able to differentiate the difference between the human mind and the mind of the world. They are one and the same. They are not two different things. But for purposes of convenience, you see, we have created this enclosure, and we have a feeling that, you see, we are individuals. We are not actually individuals. But when somehow the whole structure collapses, the individualization takes place. For the first time, you become an individual. You become an individual. Individual means you have become a flower. And since there is no thought structure anymore, there is no I anymore, what is left with is the body. And what is inside the body is this life. You see, this life is not different from the creative life. And this is the creative energy. You can say all these words, but the creative energy that has created the whole universe. This is going into the field of mysticism unnecessary. It doesn't mean anything at all. So I come back to the same point. After all this going through, exploring this, I come to the same point and ask myself the question, what is mind? And so I have no answer. There is no question. The question has disappeared in the process. So if in this process, if I am able to bring somebody else also, you see, along, and put him in that state, you see, of not knowing, if I can, it's a very difficult thing. The truth can work, otherwise so answering questions seems to me of no importance at all. But yet, to find out, I think I have explained this, how the thought originates, the root of the thought. The origin of the thought is a thing which you don't know at all. No, you don't know at all. Somehow it's there. But that is a part of the consciousness inside. You see, the life itself. You see, the brain mechanism has this. You see, seems to have this as part of its being. That seems to me. I really can't give a satisfactory answer to that.
I really meant not the question of the origin of thought, but the question of why. See, what is the origin of the continuity of thought?
Since there is no continuity.
Yeah, but with you say that the awareness wipes out the thought when it starts, but you see, if it doesn't wipe out thought.
So that means the I is there. If the I is there,
yeah.
he carries on. You see, he brings more and more thought. Since this I is now, this thought is incapable of bringing the thinker into existence. You understand? So before that happens, you see, this gap, this thought disappears. So it's the awareness. It's like, you see, in the airports you have these doors. The moment you set your foot, the door opens. Yeah. The thought comes. So, but what actually the thought opens this? There is a break in awareness because of the thought, or no matter what happens, you see, both of them is the awareness. The thought is there and it's not there the next moment. And so you see, it has no chance to bring the thinker into operation at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the continuity is lost. It's all the time. That's the only thing. There is no continuity anymore. I recognize this, you see, as a microphone, and the purpose is served and all right. But next time again, you see, I have to.
Yeah. Well, you see, if you want to communicate, which you seem to want to do,
that's one of my problems. I may not, I may not even want to, but I'm beginning to feel that even without communicating, there is a possibility of being silent in some corner. You see, no matter where you sit, you see, this, I may be, because there's nobody who is deluding oneself, you see, because these fallouts perhaps will affect it in its own way. I don't know, I really don't know. But there is another difficulty for me is, you see, the mode of expression. I have no way of expressing myself since you see, the whole past is wiped out, and that past included Krishnamurti too. So the Krishnamurtian lingo, if I may use that word, is of no value at all to me. I can't use that at all. Impossible for me. So I don't even know what he's talking now, except a few phrases. It's a fresh phrase. So the easy thing for an individual is to fall back on that lingo, which all the religious teachers is easy. The ready-made literature was there, so they used God, they used all the expressions, and this man somehow has developed a new kind of new mode of expression, which is very vital. But to me, see, that seems inadequate, because you see, that was part up to that point, the cumulative, perhaps it helps others, I don't know, I can't say about others. But the breakthrough the simile of Newton and Einstein, you see, the Newtonian physics had to come to a stop in me. You see, the whole structure collapsed, and that structure included Krishnamurti. So I can't use any of those things. And how am I going to create new words? I can't create new words at all, because I have to use the inadequate words that we have.
There are different structures, ways of reading language. You see, the point is that the same words can function in different structures, you see, in different forms.
Yes.
So, you see, if you wish to discuss, you see, in other words, you are talking.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
So therefore...
All right, yes, no, I think I said enough.
No, I didn't mean you shouldn't talk. I only mean that therefore you want to communicate. I take it that that some communication
No, it would be very interesting to find out. Perhaps, you see, the questioner always helps me. One who comes here, he has to bring me out. I can't come prepared. This is what I am going to talk. It depends upon the person I am talking to. Yes. And one of the difficulties I have is most of the people here are full of Krishnamurti's ideas. And so I'm always confronted with this. Or if you go to India, they come with this, the Hindu, the technical terminology, the whole thing. So I'm always, so they have to bring me out. Maybe perhaps in this process something will come out, I don't know.
Not only here, but in science and in all other places, it is necessary to change the form of the language, which doesn't mean use different words, but I'll go into it. You see, just as an illustration, you see, you described something which I would put in a slightly different form, which is to say that thought comes in, or memory comes in, where the situation shows it to be relevant. You see, that you see, if we consider this notion of relevance, the difficulty is that our thought tends to come in when it is not relevant, you see. Therefore, that is why we are in a state of confusion.
No, I don't quite get it. Would you please?
Yes, you see, I want to say that we want to bring... See, let me try to say that this notion of relevance will help us to communicate.
Yes.
Now, see, let's go to Einstein just to begin with. You see, now what Einstein saw was the irrelevance of the Newtonian conception of space and time. At least beyond a certain point, it ceases to be irrelevant. Now, people continuing to work with those conceptions were continuing with what is irrelevant and thus producing confusion. Do you see?
Yes.
Do you follow me?
Yes, I understand.
All right, now, so Einstein saw this is irrelevant. Now, when you see something is irrelevant, it drops away. It becomes ineffective, you see. Now, that leaves the mind free to see what is relevant. So Einstein saw another notion of space and time that is relevant. But of course, now people working with Einstein's notions are carrying them beyond the point where they are relevant.
Yes, there will come another man.
There must be come again.
Another man, yes.
You see, so and in fact, probably it's irrelevant for anybody to try to continue Einstein's work at all. You see, that is, this is a mistake, as it was a mistake to continue Newton's work.
Yes.
You see, now the point is, so we see that first of all, in the content of thought, there is something that may be relevant to a certain situation, which you have remarked upon, that it may be relevant to know the way to the station.
Yes.
Now, therefore, thought comes in where it is relevant. You see, if I make a description, it will be, say, of the mountain. It is relevant to the mountain, but not to this, you see.
Mm.
So, therefore, you will recognize the mountain from the description by seeing where it is relevant. Now, you cannot analyze what is meant by relevance.
Yes. Yes.
But now, fine. So, now, the next point, you see, is to go on from the notion of the relevance of particular content to another notion, which is that whether our ideas of relevance and irrelevance are irrelevant.
Yes.
You see, that when our thought is conditioned, then it is conditioned to give irrelevant judgments of relevance and irrelevance. Do you see? And this is where it begins to go wrong, because we take all sorts of things which are irrelevant, and they're taken as relevant. Now, once you take them as relevant, then it is confused. You see, it's confused to assert what is irrelevant. It is confused to deny what is irrelevant. You see, to deny. So whatever you do about it, even to say it's wrong or it doesn't exist, is confused. You see, that is, whatever you do about the irrelevant brings in confusion. All that can be done is to let it drop. You see, and now, so I think, you see, the first point is, as I see, thought has gone wrong in bringing in various irrelevant things, say, such as irrelevant gratification,
Yes.
or irrelevant continuity, irrelevant security, and so on. Do you see that now this, when it comes in as irrelevant, it seems to disturb the brain. Do you see? I say it disturbs the function of the brain, so the brain is not clear and it cannot make judgments of relevance and irrelevance. So it makes a trap. Do you see that once you have an irrelevant thought, it disturbs the brain, say, like here, and then the judgment goes wrong, so you cannot see that this thought is irrelevant, and therefore it seems relevant. Therefore you continue it. Therefore you continue to disturb the brain, and you go around and around in a circle, but it gets bigger, you see. Well, now, so what you described, you see, the question which I wanted to inquire into was where this malfunction of the relevance judgment comes in, do you see? Somehow the judgment of relevance ceases to, begins to go wrong, you see, that with thought. Now, I think where pleasure comes in, do you see, where gratification comes in, and also time, you see, the thing is that the second thing we can say is that except for certain limited purposes, time is not relevant.
Mm.
But we are making it right. What?
But it is still relevant in the field of thought.
Yes, but thought is time.
Thought is time. Yes.
Yes, you see that is I can see that. You see, but time is but the time is also relevant in certain functional purposes, say such as catching the train or operating various machinery and various other things. You see, so people can synchronize their activities. But the difficulty is that the relevance of time has gone much further in our thought. It seems that we exist in time, and that is irrelevant. You see. Well, yes. So now, as far as language is concerned, you see, I think that we could clarify the situation. If I pointed out, if I emphasize the two notions of description and inference, do you see? If we make a description, say, from perception, and we may make inferences from that description, they mix out. Now, I would say that all science, or everything, deals fundamentally with description and inference, but the mistake has been made to assume that it deals with it describes what is, you see. Now, you see, for example, people felt Newtonian time is what is, Newtonian space. That made it very hard to change it, you see. Then Einstein came in with another conception. Now people begin to feel that is what is. But you see, if we say all space, all time, all descriptions of matter are descriptions, and then, you see, that does not commit us to say that is the way things are. Now, then the description is relevant, you see, or not, to a certain situation. You see, a certain situation may call forth a certain form of description, which is relevant, but if we extend it too far, then it will not be relevant. One can perceive difficulties or confusion, and the description will drop away, you see. Now, So it seems, from what you say, you see that, you see, or at least before we go into that.
You see,
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
you see, the thought, the pleasure content of the thought is gone once and for all. You see, and so that means the pain also is gone. Both, or that means the whole structure is gone. The sex is gone once and for all. You see, so it's impossible for such an individual to have sex anymore. You see, that is how sex also is a pleasure. You see, and along with it all, the whole pleasure content, not because you see of your desire to practice abstinence or continence or celibacy. It's none of those things. The sex becomes an impossibility because the pleasure content is once and for all gone. Not only if you knock off the pain, you can't just you see wipe out pain without touching the pleasure. One cannot exist independent of the other. So the content of pleasure or pain in the thought is not there anymore. What is left is only is an immaterial thought. I don't know if it makes sense.
But with regard to this particular thing, sex, there is this question of reproduction.
Now, because you see the glands, the sex glands, you see, have to function.
Yes.
But without the normal function of the sex glands, your thyroid will be affected and you become a demented person. But that sex energy is, after all, that is the energy which I am talking of. That energy is sublimating itself, and that's the one that is going into the brain cells. Instead of the downward direction, you see, it is going upwards. So that is the creative energy. If I am talking of the creative energy, it is the same creative energy that is inside of you, is now is undergoing a process of sublimation, as it were. And apart from that, you see, apart from that, all the other glands are functioning. The feeling which we call sex feeling is not recognized as a sex feeling, number one.
But perhaps she meant that more like, isn't it a duty that not a duty, I just speak, very loosely, a duty that they should reproduce.
Is that the duty actually?
I don't know, I'm only trying to understand
then why are we producing that?
Did you mean that?
Well, I wouldn't have used the word duty because I think this is such a loaded word.
Well, I said I was going to speak very loosely.
Perhaps if I may say in a different way that, of course, one doesn't know whether reproduction can't take place in another mode other than bisexually. I mean, it could, heterosexually, that there could be another way, a bisexual way. I mean, that is very simple animals and plants. There can be another way. So one doesn't know. I mean, it may not be a necessity in some future time of the human race. We don't know. At this moment we function in this way. So I don't know, but I mean at this moment that sex is necessary for the reproduction of the human race.
Yeah, that is a statement of the mind, mental, you see, the I. See, to make a statement whether sex is necessary or not, is you will find out for yourself when you step outside the structure of the I. As long as you see your...
No, but purely on a biological level.
Well, what do you know of the biological?
Well, this is what I say. We don't know what could happen.
Biologically it becomes impossible because, you see, now that the senses are operating in a different way. Let me explain. You see, I hold the hand of this woman.
Yes.
First, she is not a woman to me.
Yes.
You see. So I don't name her, excuse me, but this has to...
Well, it doesn't matter.
I have to deal with this subject, you see.
Yes.
So this is, first, she is not a woman to me, see. And that will upset her, this statement. Not that I am making a statement. In order to explain, you see, how this is not a possible thing. First, she is not a woman.
Yes.
You see, there is no difference between, you see, she or the child or the awareness is not there. All right, I hold there is only softness, that there is something, here there is no pleasure content.
Yes.
There is only a touch, the soft touch and the hard touch.
Yes.
Not that I feel all the time, you see, there is an awareness that this is a soft, all right. That there is something more than that, you see, more pleasurable than that, you see, to embrace that lady. Nobody inside of you is suggesting further and further and further. You see, kissing is more pleasurable than you see, embracing a woman. All these, you see, the continuity is not there. This is what I am saying. When once the continuity is knocked off, somehow, there is no continuity.
Yes.
So each time there is, you see, a gap, you see. There is a break here. So that there is the more and more and more of something is gone once and for all. The less and less and less of the other thing also is gone. You see. It's not that everybody who is in this the state of one, but somehow you see you step out of that structure. Since sex is one of the pleasures and an extraordinary pleasure.
Then can there be reproduction without any intention?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm suggesting is that is the question of the mind. You see, I ask you, for instance, all right, if you are really interested in the procreation of the generation, and sex is intended for the procreation, why the hell are we producing these birth control pills? Why do we want to stop this birth control? You see, that is the another. You see, the society. This is a social problem. You see, a social problem means a moral problem. Now you see the tensions of moral issues are not there anymore inside of me. It doesn't mean that I will, with impunity, commit horrible things. It's impossible for me to do that. You understand? The moral problem, the tensions of the moral problem aren't there anymore inside of me.
But you could not have sex.
How can I? That's what I
could not.
It's impossible.
So what you are saying is that there is no reproduction without pleasure.
That's not my concern, you see.
But it is what you are saying.
Huh?
But it is what you are saying.
You are asking me a question, what about the continuity of the human race? That may be your question. At the same time, you see, the whole society is now out to stop the population explosion. We are inventing pills. What about that? You see the contradiction, you see, the confusion. And also, you see, these are social...
So you're not meeting.
Yes, you're speaking on two different levels.
No, I'm trying to...
Yes, I understand. It's very interesting, actually.
And you see the absurdity of it, but this also, whether to continue the race or not, is also a social problem in a way. You see, if you study the history of the Hindus, the Catholics, the Hindus wanted, you see, always children. And now, you see, the conditions are changing, the economic conditions are changing. For instance, you see, Hitler wanted more and more soldiers, and so he encouraged that. And this is after the Second World War, 200,000 or I don't know how many, 20 billion people died in Russia, and so Stalin, you see, wanted more and more population. See, now we don't want for economic reasons. So these are all the problems and the questions of the human mind, you see.
You are really saying, why do you want to reproduce the human race?
That is, no, I'm not saying anything.
You're not?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just analyzing the problem for you. For me, you see, all problems, you see, with all pleasure, there is no such thing as pleasure for me anymore. There is an enjoyment, you see. When I eat food, there is an enjoyment. That I call it an enjoyment. This distinction you must understand. The enjoyment because, you see, there is no taste. So whether I put sugar on my tongue or salt on my tongue, you see, it doesn't make any difference at all to me. So it does make a lot of difference to you. Alright, if I want to recognize that as salt, there is salt. And we have this, the books, hundreds of recipes, cookery books. All that is worthless to me because the dominant ingredient in your spices, that is the one that hits my tongue. You see. And so what you call sour is sweet to me, what you call sweet sometimes is sour to me. It's because the dominant ingredient, whether it be a fruit or you see a dish, and so the taste has gone. So no matter what I eat, whether it is a vegetarian food or a non-vegetarian food, not that I am advocating non-vegetarian meat at all, it is of no importance. I am not putting ideas into my stomach anymore, whether this is healthy or unhealthy, and so it is not secreting any wrong juices anymore because there are no ideas. When I am eating, there are no thoughts at all because I am not recognizing anything at all, whether this is sour or sweet or sour. And so this is a tremendous enjoyment. The food goes inside of your stomach and the blood naturally rushes here and you are in a state of tremendous bliss if you want to use the food. No matter what I am doing, even if I am there in the toilet, sitting there, that is equally the same. You see, the movement of the bubbles inside puts me into that state of samadhi, you understand? And so, the whole thing is the whole edifice, whatever we see around us, the whole structure built by the human mind. You understand? Everything we have is except the nature of beauty. Everything is the one that has been created by the human mind. And now, the people have to realize, this is the thing which I'm going to point out, the whole structure for centuries has been built on wrong foundations. Because this is the creation of the mind. And now you see that the people are beginning to feel that what we have done so far possibly seems to be wrong. And so see, the mind cannot play the same part as it has played before. I think we are going off the tangent.
It's the same.
You see, the mind is, the importance of the mind is not it has already, everything we have, the whole, the technological progress, but yet you see, I will tell somebody, see, he will throw brick back, not he, but the scientist, you have to write off the whole technological progress, because it hasn't led man anywhere, and the man is still pursuing the same old, the ends, using this technological efficiency, the same old ends, you see, of the basic needs, acquisitiveness, you see, the pursuit of sex, and the same things are going on and on. So man has not changed in 30, the anatomical structure, they say, has not changed in 30,000 years. It's exactly the same, and for 14 million years, or God knows how many years, they will perhaps change it. So this is not the way. Obviously, this is not the way. These questions seem to me fall into the area of irrelevance, to put it, But they are relevant, you see, to an individual who is concerned with the problem. So the exploration of the problem perhaps is, you see, to not to treat it on a moral basis, or whether sex is necessary or not, whether the problems of the people, they're not real, they don't give a damn for this procreation, or whether the continuity of the race, and they are killing 500 people every day in Vietnam.
Well, I mean, procreation could be taken care of in many ways. If you consider the animals, for example, they have no thought.
They have no.
Therefore, procreation is the same as anything else.
Yes, I was going to say this, that if the situation is such, then the action follows. And if the situation is not one that requires procreation, then the action doesn't follow.
I think there are no ready-made answers for all these.
The ethical problems. There are many ways of approaching it.
Well, we make an ethical problem.
It's because people think about it all the time that it becomes such a difficult problem.
It's a difficult, No, see, we come back to this point of the relevancy. See, I'm really interested. Perhaps you'll be able to help me. Because I'm broken. If somebody asks me a question, how am I? See, I have come to the point that Krishnamurtian approach is irrelevant to me as far as I'm concerned. It has relevancy, you see, to some people. To me, you see, like the Newtonian and Einsteinian, there is, you see, the difference, you see. So, I am at the same time, you see, not anxious. I do not want to create the irrelevance, you see, again, without creating the same kind of an irrelevant situation. It was an irrelevant thing for me, otherwise I wouldn't have broken away from that, you see. I could see the irrelevance of that to me. So that structure collapsed. But at the same time, I must be alert, you see, not to create. I think I'm bound to create. The moment I try to communicate this, you see, it creates in itself the irrelevancy of the whole thing. The very desire to communicate this.
That's the point. I think that you have to discuss this whole question of language.
It is not just a question of semantics.
No, I meant much more than
or even linguistic.
No, but I meant that language is an action which goes beyond words. You see, as we talk, we have not merely the sound of the words and their content, but also the nonverbal effect. You see, language produces adrenaline, you see, it produces excitement or depression and meaning and so on, you see. So, if we consider the whole of language, it's an extension of the whole of our activity, which is not separate from the nonverbal. There's no separation between the verbal and the nonverbal, except in words. That separation is purely verbal, because words are also part of our nonverbal action. And the question is whether our words are in harmony, whether our verbal action is in harmony with the whole of our action. You see, the difficulty is that our verbal action has got out of harmony with the whole of our action. And this is where we're coming into trouble. The form of our words, the form of our language, if I distinguish form and content, you see, the content of our language is what we're talking about, and the form is not merely the rules of language, but also the informal form, which is changing every minute, you see, which includes also the situation in which we are sitting around and so on. Now this informal form of language has to be in harmony with the content, but it gets out of harmony. You see, if somebody shouts, "Be quiet," you see, you have disharmony between the content, which is silence, and the form, which is making a lot of noise, you see. And so this is what has been happening in our language, that the form of our language is not as out of harmony with the content, and this creates an irrelevant form of thought, which has all these problems in it.
Mm.
You see, so if you, if you were to start to make a language, once it began to fix the form, you see, then that form would cease to be in harmony with the content. It has to be said, and then it would start up this trouble. So I think once there is this disharmony, it produces that state of troubled thought, which is trying to solve a problem, and which never stops. You see, which builds up. That you see, the thought takes root, as you put it. When you have a problem, and this problem begins to produce an irrelevant situation inside the brain, which disturbs the brain in some way. It makes another problem, which the brain is trying to solve by another thought, and so on. Yes. So I think that what we have to do, you see, is that watch the form of our language, and the form and structure of our language are determined by judgment of relevance and irrelevance, not by the words, but by judgment of relevance and irrelevance, you see. If the self is judged to be supremely relevant, this helps keep us in that state. You see, a form of our language helps keep the state of the mind in the form of the self, or the observer. And you see, the subject-verb-object form does that. It says, I do this, I see this, which then creates the image of I looking at this. You see what I mean? So therefore, we have to see the irrelevance of this whole form. See, we can't change it immediately because that would take many years to change the way we use words, but one can change the relevance of these forms immediately. And now, so if we watch our thought and our language for its structure of relevance and irrelevance, I think that we can avoid introducing irrelevancy. You see what I mean?
May I say something?
Yeah.
I don't think you see my difficulty. First, you see, this is the problem which I am facing every day here. So many people come. And first, the problem is an artificial problem to me, because I have no problems at all. Understand? The problem is an artificial problem to me.
Which problem?
Whatever the individual asks a question, any problem, you see.
Let's agree on that.
Just let me go slowly.
Yeah.
That is number one.
Yeah.
And the second difficulty is, you see, to think out the problem with him. And the way, you see, this I must also explain. I am speaking, you see, the words. Because the speaking ability of the human being is one of the 10 senses. This is one of the senses. There is nobody who is speaking. The words simply roll because of the vocal cords in me. So every time I use a word, you see, it's not a conscious effort on my part to use the word. You see, the challenge, and there is a response, not a reaction. There is no reaction. That question is a challenge to me. You see, I'm very sexual. What am I going to do? It's just an example. Or you see, I want to solve the human problem, the world problem. So that is, why the hell does he want to ask this question? You see, because it is so difficult for him to change, you see, himself. You know, he can't bring about a change within the structure of his own being, and he's interested in changing the world. That's an impossibility. It's a far-fetched idea. So I have to point out to him, in exploring this problem, the words that come out of me, you see, they spring from a different origin. It is not the thinker that is formulating this thought, or it is, I'm not trying to make it mystical. It is because the vocal cords are, this is one of the abilities of the human being. You see, we have developed through centuries of evolution the ability to speak words. That is why I say the word, the origin of the word is a thing which I don't know. Which if anybody says, all right, you see, let them perhaps tomorrow they will say, change. I am not interested in either accepting the biblical statement. In the beginning was the word. So through centuries upon centuries, you see, this the capacity to speak, you see, the human being has developed, and it becomes very easy for our children to start speaking than, you see, 30 or 40 generations ago. So where from these words come, you see, I myself, you see, explored this. they don't come, you see, in a formulated way, they don't come. You see, the words come, there is a need to describe the state of awareness. This awareness brings these words out of me. You see, the vocal cords are functioning. So there is nobody who is formulating these thoughts or reasoning or logical. It has a logic of its own. So you can't come to this point through any logically ascertained premises. So that questioner is discussing this from his rationalistic, from his the logical premise. So there is a tremendous difficulty for me to take him along. So this is a spontaneous process. If there is no talking, you see, then there is a silence here. It is nothing. The moment I stop the movement of the lips and the vocal cords stop functioning, there is nothing here for me. And so these words come in their own way, and they have their own relevancy, they have their own logic, they have their own rationality, they have their own structure. You see, and so the memory. This is like, you see, the press, the newspapers rolling on. You know, the situation demands. So every word I use, you see, he's interpreting it in a wrong way. If I use one word, you see, he's abstracting. There's not only this semantic difficulty, but also there is a communication gap, because every word I use, he is projecting. You see, he's abstracting something and projecting something else. So every word I use, I have to qualify. So this is not what I mean. This is for what you mean. And so this is not what I mean when you use the word. You see, the mind, you see, I have to qualify. Consciousness, I have to qualify. You see, love, I have to qualify. Kindness, I have to qualify. All these words, you see, have a different connotation for them. They are very mischievous words. And so there is a real difficulty for me to carry on an exploration with him, because we seem to be functioning on two different frequencies. You see, to bring these 2 points to focus seems to be the difficulty to me. You see, it is here, you see,
they are using a structure of words which has been built up over thousands of years. And therefore this structure has its own law, which pushes the situation in a certain way, no matter what you want. It's like a machine, you see.
It's like a machine. You
start the machine, it goes its own way, no matter what you want, right? Yes. So the point is, I'm trying to say we have got to observe this machine, how it works, and see how it can be changed. You see, that this machine, in fact, plays a big role in making all of us what we are, you see. You see, we are not different from our language. And and you see, in this language structure, there are all sorts of tacit judgments of relevance which prevent communication. You see, it is necessary for the judgment of relevance to be free and unconditioned in order to allow for communication, you see. But when you say something which doesn't fit in with what I feel to be relevant, then either I ignore it or I change it so that it fits, right? You see, so therefore, see, one of the things is that one has to be aware of how one's judgment is being controlled by this machine, you see. And now another point that, you see, it may be significant. You see, when we use words like kindness or fear or confusion or so on, they create difficulties of communication, because, see, kindness is a description. See, if I describe this object, then I describe it from perception. It comes from perception into the word, as you were just describing. And therefore, we can have a meaning to talk about it. But see, if I describe kindness, there's nothing to look at. Therefore, apparently I'm looking at kindness, but this kindness is merely the projection in the imagination of the description. So when we use these abstract words, you see, the description is the described. And that gets in the way of communication, because, you see, if I use the word kindness, anybody uses the word kindness, and the other person sees an image inside him, which he takes to be the meaning of kindness, and therefore the whole thing goes wrong, you see, that because those particular, it's like a drama you can watch on a television, you get various feelings. So as we use words, we get similar dramatized feelings, you see. Now, it's necessary to be aware that this sort of thing can happen with our language, and that we can continually ask questions which will lead us to change the structure of this language. You see, the purpose of the question is not to answer the question, but rather to call attention to something which will change, you see, when you see it. And the point is, you see, you can ask, for example, see, is it possible, what does it mean to talk about a theory or to talk about kindness? You see, a theory is not an object of discourse, nor is kindness an object of discourse, you see, as this can be an object of discourse. See, as you try to talk about kindness, what is happening is that this duality is being introduced because there's a description which then appears as the described in the imagination. Then one seems to be looking at it. One says more about it. You see, and it's going around and around. If you see what I mean. Now, so you see, we're discussing. You see, anything we get into tremendous confusion. We say there was a quarrel. There's a quarrel. And you say you can't talk about the quarrel because you see you can't look at the quarrel. It's not an object, you see, but we treat it as an object, and then we try to do something about it as if it were an object, you see. See, that's in the structure of our language. Now, if you begin to see this, then the relevance judgments change, and you see it's irrelevant to make most of these things objects of discourse. You see, and therefore you say that the word is not intended to have a direct meaning, but rather the whole structure of words flashes by, and it may indicate a meaning which is not in the word. You see that. We see the difficulty is that we hold these words and their meaning. We try to take their meaning to be literally what the word is conveying, but you see, so in that way it seems to me communication is not the conveying of information, but rather that it's really the possibility of our coming to see this, first of all, to see that we have different notions of relevance. We then see what they are and then drop them. And then we're in communication, you see. You see, each of us begins with a certain notion of what is relevant based on past conditioning. Now, when we communicate, these two things come together in each of us. And if we see they can't meet, you see, because if one is relevant, the other is not. Therefore, both have to go. Now, then in that, the new meaning of the communication is created. You see, it's rather like Einstein, once again, seeing the irrelevance. You see, all communication is really that way, that seeing the irrelevance of the two partial views, and then what is communicated is therefore common to both of us. Now the difficulty is I think people take communication to be conveying, so that if I'm talking to you, I feel I'm giving you something and you're giving me something, and then you see it doesn't make sense. What?
The word is not a value judgment to me.
No.
But to him, you see, every word is...
I understand that, but then one has to communicate the irrelevance.
I see the difficulty, you see, of him to follow, you know. I'm not going to give any answer to him at all. He has to find out that there is no answer to that question at all. You see, that is all. There are no answers at all. And so in this process of exploration, we seem to be going, you see...
I understand that.
That seems to be the difficulty for me, you know, this... sometimes it's not that you see that is what he's saying is relevant to him.
No,
but to me, I don't even call that irrelevant, because he cannot but you see operate. You see, he operates in the field, the structure of his own thinking. You see, I find myself outside the structure of thinking because the words you see are different. You see,
you say that if I may bring something else up that. It may or may not be relevant, but you see, you are expressing, although you say what Krishnaji says has no meaning for you anymore, I can understand why you say this, but you see, this difficulty, if I may use the word, that you have just expressed in trying to communicate with Mr. X is exactly the one that Krishnaji is having, which he has always had. You understand? I mean, this may be just an irrelevant aside because it doesn't bear any real relation on what we're talking. We're now concerned with the communication which is taking place at this moment. Everyone has this difficulty.
No, I understand his difficulties.
All of us.
The difficulty is not with him. The difficulty is with me. Yes, because I have you see made that into a model, into an image, you see, into a method, into a system.
Yes, but that's all without. You see that has no meaning. The very system is no meaning.
So my interest now is to avoid that kind of a thing. There seems to be no escape from that.
Yes.
There seems to be no escape.
No, but is it possible, you see, for you two people, I mean, for you to understand the what this man regards as relevant, Mr. X, you see, and what you regard as relevant. And the question is, you see, you feel that Mr. X's value judgments are irrelevant, and he feels them to be very relevant. Now, the point that has to be communicated is the irrelevance of value judgments. You see, that we have been conditioned by the use of language to make value judgments and regard them as very relevant.
Where do you think it's only language which has conditions?
Oh yes, I mean it's entirely word. Almost entirely word. Yes, you said.
Well, by word, I think that these people would say it's not just the word; it's the symbol and everything which is the word.
It's a formal way of using words, not the word, but for example, the tone in which it's used. If it's a little baby, the mother says, "Don't do it; it's bad." Now, the way I said it was very important. You see, I mean, you communicate in a certain tone of voice that bad means bad. You see.
Or if you say you're a bad
boy. A bad boy. You can say
the exiting.
I remember there's a dog a friend of mine used to have, and he used to say you're a bad dog, and he would hang his head in shame. And he would say you're a good dog, and he would lift up his head and be very happy. But
this is probably the beginning of the pleasure calculation.
Yeah, see, we were teaching dogs to be human. But the point is. Really. You see, the question is to see the irrelevance of value judgments, except in certain technical spheres, to say it's better for this purpose than. But to say it's good or bad or true or false or right or wrong, you see, these are irrelevant judgments because, you see, what is first, see, if you say X, the action X is good. See, to be good, let's try to take a typical value judgment. You say, I don't like this, it's bad. But you see, or else you might say, I do like it, it's good, you see. There was an example we were discussing today, which was, influence, you see. Now you might say, people, we are trained by the use of language to be very easily influenced, you see, because we listen to somebody and just accept his words as true, because that's the easiest way to get along with people. Or we may resist that influence and say, I don't want that influence, I won't believe it, right? But you see, both those judgments are irrelevant. I say either the judgment to allow myself to be influenced, because that makes life easier, or else because I hope I'll gain something. This fellow knows, perhaps you know something, and if you influence me, I will profit from it. Or perhaps I must resist your influence, you see. That's the way you think. So I say, my value judgment may either be, I want to be influenced by good influences, or I want to resist bad influences, you see. But I say both those judgments are irrelevant, because, you see, as soon as because most words that people say are irrelevant, you see. Almost anything that is said is likely to be not very relevant. So that if I raise the issue of resisting it, I'm giving it relevance, you see. And therefore I'm doing the same as if I accept it. You see, when I resist influence, I'm doing the same as when I accept influence. I'm being influenced. You see. So therefore, if I see the irrelevance of most of what is said, and I watch for the relevance of what is said, that's no longer influence anymore. You see, I see that X says something that is relevant, so he didn't influence me. You see, but if I say most of what he said happens to be irrelevant, I don't resist it, and I don't accept it. I just say it's irrelevant. You see, I don't even say it. I mean, it's perceived as irrelevant. Now, in the same way, you see, all moral judgments are irrelevant because what is relevant is for people to understand each other and communicate. You see, if somebody does something wrong, say to hit him or kill him or something is irrelevant because he does it wrong for very complex reasons, which are common to me as well as to him, if you see what I mean. That the reasons which may make him do that thing are very similar to the reasons which make me do whatever I do. And if I condemn that as wrong, the same as condemning myself is wrong. So I say it's irrelevant to condemn somebody as wrong, because it really won't get you anywhere. If you punish evil, it will only cause the flourishing of evil.
I feel that words and language have only channeled something which is there.
So, that's how do you know?
After all, the symbol, the flag, well, it's a symbol. Until it is imbued with feeling.
No, how do you...
It's not a symbol, it's nothing.
But it's a very mechanical way of imbuing symbols with feelings. You see, for example, you can get all the children to repeat that they love the flag, or you can put the flag there under conditions which are very exciting, tell exciting stories about it associated. You see, if you expose the flag to a child who had never seen a flag or never talked about it, it would have no effect. You see, so the language, what I take to be the language is the informal situation with which words are used as well as the rules, you see. That people use certain words in certain informal situations, saying my country is very important, we depend on each other, and so on. You see, all sorts of things are brought together so that words always produce emotions. You see, for example, if somebody calls Mr. X an idiot, Mr. X is full of emotion, you see. It's the same as a slap in the face. Now, why does the word idiot disturb Mr. X? You see, either he is an idiot or he's not. If he is an idiot, you're only telling him the truth. If he's not, then it's irrelevant. You see. No, but I meant if you call him a fool or a wicked person, you see, or saying you did wrong, you see.
But the word, as it were, taps the stream. The stream is there.
No, I think the word shapes the stream. You see, that's the way I feel, that the word puts a shape onto the. See, the stream might have many forms. But it seems to me the word puts a shape onto the stream so that it makes it anger or violence or fear or pleasure or something. You see, by using words skillfully, you can create a state of pleasure and comfort and security in anybody. Or by using words equally skillfully, you can get them very worried and frightened, you see.
Certainly you can shape your material, but the material is there, you know. It is.
What is this?
It is as it were looking. It is looking for the outlet. And language and symbolism and all the rest are outlets for it.
Well, that's a verbal statement. You see, I mean, that in itself is a statement which is we may be conditioned by language to believe.
No, this is what
I know, but I'm suggesting. You see, the question is, here's a point of problem of communication, which you might find interesting to watch. You see, the point is we are not communicating. You see, because I have one criteria of relevance, you have another. You see, we cannot meet. What are we going to do? You see, no matter how long we talk, we're not going to meet.
Maybe it lies in that what has shaped one person to a larger extent has shaped another to a lesser extent. And so one will say, well, this is what is being relevant. It is relevant in that person's life, whereas for the other person, their temperament or whatever having been different, other factors are relevant.
Well, see, I'm trying to say something else, though. You see, maybe I'm trying to say it without convincing you or anything, but just simply see if I can communicate what I want to say. What I want to say is that the words are able to produce the sense of relevance and the sense of emotion through conditioning, you see. That is, that by the use of words over a long period of time, and systematically with society and so on, and one becomes conditioned to see certain things as relevant, and that determines interest. You see, interest and relevance, I would say, are very similar. They're just different descriptions of one thing, because interest is the emotional description and relevance is a more intellectual description, you see. But now, I say that, therefore, words create interest and relevance. They condition us to certain interest and relevance. They're recorded in the memory, where they come out as thoughts, you see. So even if we don't utter the words, they still affect us. And now, I say that, words like kindness and love and, and fear and hate and country and so on, but not merely those words, but all words, but different ways, are producing most of our emotions. I'm not trying to say that, of course we can have feelings which are not coming from words, but I'm saying we have to be able to distinguish between the feelings which come from words and those which don't, you see. Because if we treat the feelings which come from words as true feelings, we are going to become confused. You see, it's like drama. You see, you can watch a drama on a television set. Now, it's nothing but a spot of light, you see, but you can get fear and hate and love and every feeling.
I agree that I will cry at my mother's funeral, mostly because I'm expected to.
Yes, people know that's well known, yes.
Yes.
And you feel the feelings that you're expected
what
to.
I say is that the reason why I do it lies deeper than because you are expected to.
Well, how do you know that?
There is material there which is looking for shape, wanting to be shaped, which for one reason or another takes the shape expected of it or breaks away from it.
Well, let me suggest another way of looking at it, which may or may not be relevant. I say that the image of the material looking for shape may also be projected by the word. It's like the drama of the television. You see, if you're looking at the television set, it may be that it's giving you news, but it may be that the whole thing is cooked up. It's on a tape in the studio. Do you see?
Do you think that if some accident or whatever, one lost completely one's memory of language, if there is such a center which could be lost, then is there transformation?
You can never forget the memory of language. How can you?
You are it. I mean, it's like. You see,
as long as you are living, all these things are functioning.
That's true, but for example, there are cases of amnesia.
Yes, but that is an illness.
Now, if it is an illness, well, if there were an illness where language was obliterated from this individual's
one part of the brain is damaged.
Is there transformation?
No?
No, but you see, language
Not transformation. I don't know what you mean by transformation.
Well,
how do you...
Is that individual any different from what he was before?
Yes, but the language is a verbal language. So if the center that's destroyed deals with words, there's still all the other, which is the language.
It is the center, and one aspect of it is language.
No, language covers all this.
Language moves from one form to another.
Language is only the words that come out in English or in German or whatever.
They're all occult sounds, aren't they?
Yes.
It's also the written language.
German, you see, he speaks Mexican or Spanish, you see. If I don't know the language, it's just pure and simple sound to me. So I have to learn, you see, of understanding, you see, the space between these sounds. Or probably the space between these two sounds constitutes the language.
Yes.
The language is also the written language.
There is the music, you see, the space between the notes is the music. So, I don't know, how do you understand, you see, both of you are discussing, how do you come to a point of understanding what you are discussing?
You see, we're not meeting still.
So how do we bring about this, is there a meeting point at all? If there is, how can we arrive at that point, two individuals discussing?
Well, you see, I feel that what we have to do is first to listen to each other very carefully, and before we make any, without making any choice or any judgment, right?
So I listened, you see, there was nothing inside of me, no reaction at all. This was sound, pure sound, and you see the process that you see, the dictionary inside of me, the sorting out the words, you see, no content at all to me. I have listened. You see, there is already a meeting. There is no disagreement on what he's saying. All that is true. But if not that I'm saying that it is agreeing or disagreeing. There is no question of agreeing or disagreeing with me, with him. Well, what he has said, I have listened. You see, without any reaction. So you see, if two persons are, there is no question of my arguing at that point at all, as far as I'm concerned, whether it is a learned, profound discourse or you see, or anything, it is just listening to me. You see, the words have a different context. When two persons are discussing to understand, whatever it is, you see, understand the problem. It is not understanding the problem at all. You see, we are moving away from the problem. There is no such thing as problem as I see it, you see. I don't know.
I think the only thing is the meeting.
Isn't it the very word structure that is the barrier? You see, there is no meeting point between the two persons because you are throwing words at each other. Yeah. Because there is a reaction. I don't know. So this process must come to an end in order to be a meeting ground. It's on both sides.
Yes, sure. Well, I was just going to use this nice analogy that's been used about if people are arguing from two different premises, they both have to leave the...
No, that was a joke that was told by somebody once. There two ladies were fighting in two buildings, just screaming at each other, and somebody came along and said, these ladies will never meet because they're arguing from different premises.
They both have to get out and meet in the middle. So, I think that the thing is that we perhaps, even to talk about meeting, perhaps is the wrong way because this means that there are two.
But could we observe something? You see, while we are talking, you see, suppose we watch what's happening while we talk. You see, I'm going to say something that you disagree with, or you say something that I disagree with. So watch the feeling, you see, which comes. I don't know. I can't say it now, but I'm saying that watch the feeling that comes into you when I say something that you don't agree with. I say that's part of the language. You see, because you see, a certain language structure is built up out of habit, which one feels to be the truth, the relevance, and there is the defense of the truth. You see, against all that is evil and false and so on. Right? See, that has been built up in us, so that we are quite ready immediately to defend the truth as soon as we feel that it is under attack. Right? So therefore, I say something to you that I say that it's all language, and you say, no, that can't be truth. So did you watch that feeling that came up as you at that moment? You see, now that feeling floods the brain, and it gets it very excited. So one isn't quite clear on one's judgments. You see, one is not clear in perception. And now, therefore, your answer to me is not clear.
We also, you see, touch this here,
Yeah.
the expansion of the ligaments here, you feel it.
Yeah.
So if you're listening without reacting, there was a physical response to that sound.
Yeah.
You know, when he
Yeah.
You see here, you see that? How I react, this is not a reaction, but this is a response to the sound. So I was just listening, it was pure music, I don't call it music, or it's a pure sound, you see. I didn't even know what he was saying. Even the dictionary process was not there inside of me. So I was listening with very great interest every word, as if I am swallowing every word, but no swallowing, nothing, you see. The flow of words and the movement, you see. So as long as there is a reaction, there isn't going to be any agreement between two persons. Yeah. So you see, that flow of language could produce in me a response, which is not a mental response, but a physical response. You see, the whole body was responding to the sound. So not a language, whether you spoke in German, English, or Italian or Spanish, it is of no importance to an individual who wants to understand, you know. If there is any answer to be given to that, it's immediately the memory supplies the answer.
Because you could listen, say, to a language you don't know, and you get you get what, if someone speaks in anger, you get
that feeling, that's part of the language. The anger is not really in the tone, but in the way you twist words in a slight way.
There is an immediate understanding. And so as long as you are reacting, there is no agreement at all between two persons. There isn't going to be argument at the end of the doomsday. So, but this is somehow, you see, this has to be discovered by the individuals. I don't know if I...
For instance, sometimes I look at my two little children playing. Sometimes my little boy wants all the cars that he has. And the little girl wants one of the cars, for instance. And begins a complication there, you know. She wants something and he doesn't want to give her anything. So at a certain moment it seems that both forget this desire. And at the moment that they forget this desire, they are right to a complete communication, and the situation is changed in a very nice way. But if they stay in that position, they are never going to arrive. It's just until the moment that they change completely, and everything flies, everything disappears. And I think it's just for that, what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yes.
Our condition, for instance, I remember I was in a party once in New York, and in Argentina, I was an Argentine woman there, and there was Mexican people there too. And we were sitting in something called cajeta. Cajeta in Mexico is a sweet made by sugar and milk. And cajeta in Buenos Aires means the sexual part of the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So we were eating there, and at the end, it was this kind of sweet there, you know? And somebody says, "Please give me the cajeta."
Oh.
And the Argentinian woman became red immediately, completely red. No? She was a very, very elegant woman, you know, this kind of social people. She gets burned immediately. And the other people, I didn't understand anything. I thought it was cajeta, you know. It was cajeta that. So I was thinking now that how to make them understand.
Yeah.
for that lady who was born in Argentina was ahead of us since she was a little girl.
Speak about it.
Certain thing, and for the other people was such another thing. But it's amazing.
I can see this shows this tremendous emotional power of a word. You see that it really is the physical power because it makes the blood flow, you see, and so on. And I think that, so that's why I want to say that we want to use the word language with a different notion of its relevance. Instead of merely talking about words, language is the whole process, which includes the meaning, the nervous response, the physical response. You see, every response to the word is part of language. You see, because if it weren't for that, the language would have very little significance. So, now, if we say language is one whole, then to change it, and changing the structure of the language doesn't mean changing the word, it means changing the relevance. You see, it was a question of relevance in the story you told. You see, there's two very different relevances of the word. So, therefore, what it's relevant to has a tremendous power. You see, so you see, and that shows that if the word, and why was it relevant in one way and not in another? Because of the way people used it. You see, if you use it in a certain way for a certain period of time, it is relevant in that way, and when somebody uses it, it will produce all the effect. You see, so the country is the same thing. You see, the flag, because you see, the flag is merely a substitute for the word. You see, it's a kind of word symbol, just like the printed word. And now, so, and I say that, you see, in science, fundamental progress comes by seeing the irrelevance of certain notions, you see, like Einstein. Now, I think similarly, you see, in communication, the essential point is to see the irrelevance of older notions, which means they drop away, and then the mind is able immediately to see the fact. You see, what stops us from seeing this fact or understanding it is all these other notions that are irrelevant. They are defended. You see, the brain gets flooded with, in your case, even the face was flooded with blood, but in milder cases, the brain still gets blood in there. When you say something that there seems to be an attack on what one regards as true or right or good, you see. Now, so you see, it's very hard in having a discussion if somebody, see, if I say a word or a few words and somebody takes that as relevant in a certain way, therefore there's an explosion inside and he can't listen. You see, or else the explosion is covered up and you see, the person just freezes. You see, another response is to freeze and not listen. You see, to push it aside and say it doesn't mean anything, that's nonsense.
Of course, for instance, if somebody talks about brutality, if somebody living in a very quiet place, in a very quiet city, and doesn't know anything about brutality, when you talk about brutality, you have living in a brutal country, or in a brutal situation, your reaction is completely different as soon as you have the brutality. You know? So your reaction is not going to be the same that somebody who is living in a very, very quiet life. You know? To talk about hungry, you have never had the possibility to have it. How can you talk about hungry with somebody who is hungry? I think the base problem between a rich man and a poor person. How come the rich person doesn't know anything about how it is to be poor? Well, many do, but many doesn't. Many doesn't know. So how can you? Since they were little boys or little children, they grew up rich already, with any necessity, material necessity. I mean, to understand that is quite difficult.
I don't think that there could ever be a meeting by trying to explain to the man who has never been without food what it is to be hungry. these are all problems, as you say, which are not problems. I mean, they're very real problems for the man who's starving. But still arguing from two different entities, and I mean, that's not communication. It can never be communication.
Yeah, it can never be communication. Why never?
In only language?
Yes.
That's the entity.
The entity is
Only
produced by
language.
language. That's I would
Produced
suggest.
by language.
Yes,
Thought, no.
by thought. You see thought produces a picture of an observer looking at the observed, and it also has that structure. You see, it says that, for example, it says I am angry, which suggests I and anger is separate.
All thought is not language in the sense of that at one time a word which brings up one reaction will not at another time.
Well, it may have many meanings. So
But still it's a reaction, isn't it? How can you read it? Have you ever tried reading your thoughts? How do you read your thought? Tell me.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, but how do you know that you are angry? Unless you use the word anger, you will never know that. So I
don't know.
No, yeah, but you see, you don't stop there, it hits me also, you see. No.
Let's go over that slowly.
It hits you, yes, but if you know, the moment it hits you, you have used the word, the language has come in there. Otherwise it wouldn't have affected you at all. It has a bodily reaction, and it's disposed of there, you see, it's finished, you see, it burnt there. And the burning has a tremendous experience, you see. So the language is a very important thing. You can't think without these words at all. There's no thinking process without words. So the thought must be there. The thought never disappears. Don't think that you will be a thoughtless person. Should such a thing happen? This is like spoon. If there is a use for it, you use it. If there is no use, it just sits there for years and years and years. Every object is everything is spoon, is cup, saucer. They are just there. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I want to say, if you watch this point carefully, you'll see something. You see that if one reacts, say if somebody steps on your toe or says a word that's like a slap in the face, you see, there is a reaction. And now, you see, the point is that one describes this reaction either by words or by thinking, I am angry. Now that description is the described. You see, it's the same as a drama. If we were to read a drama here, we could produce all the feelings, you see, by this drama. You could produce anger, hatred, fear, kindness, and so on. You see, and now, so the minute that description comes in, I am angry. You see, then there appear those feelings of anger from the memory. You see, along with the feeling that I am back here looking at them and trying to control them. There's also the notion I should control them, and so on. Do you think? And then there's this. Therefore, what you can see is that the descriptive, put it in two steps. If one first sees the description as the described, instead of saying I am angry, if I see I am anger, you see the difference. You see, therefore there's no separation. You see, because if I am angry, it would make sense to try to stop being angry. You see, if I am anger, it means something else. Now, the point is then that it's irrelevant to be anger. If you really see that, then the anger will go, you see. But but you see, we are conditioned so that the word responds very fast. And you see, that something happens, and then very, very rapidly this word comes in, and the word has that feeling. You see, just like the word stupid fool. You see, if somebody says the word you stupid fool in the right tone of voice, in the right conditions, there will be an explosion in the brain, you see. That word can produce a tremendous reaction. Now, similarly, see, the words I am angry produce a reaction based on memory, if you see. And they also produce the effort to control that reaction, which is always continuing the reaction, do you see? So therefore, the more you try to control it, the more twisted it gets and the more complicated. But the thing is, if I see that anger is irrelevant, you see, and I am irrelevant. You see, this really is the thing which is the hardest thing to see. The reason I can't stop anger is because I am anger. And if I say anger is irrelevant, it means I am irrelevant. You see, and that's really, I can't forget this insult, you see, because it happened to me. Right? That's the way it goes, right? And I can't let it go, you see, because I am relevant. If I let it go, it would mean I am irrelevant, you see. And therefore that's the thing which holds it, you see. To say, a person finds it very hard to say I am irrelevant.
Yeah, but dealing with, for instance, the anger, you see, you are tackling this when once it comes into being.
That's later, right?
You see, the relevancy or the irrelevancy of naming or not naming anger as anger is, so, but what is the root of that? You see, that is the most important thing. That's what I am trying to point out. So there is no question of, you see, you looking at anger at all. I don't know if you see the impossibility of looking at anger. You see, it's not at all.
Yeah.
It is not possible at all. You see, so you see, what is the root, the origin of anger? When once it comes into being, you can't do anything at all. You see. So why does this? What is the origin of anger? It is in the process of listening. It begins there even before earlier. My very listening apparatus has created this problem. You see, you are saying something. You see, the saying, you see, the listening, you see, the listening apparatus has created this, what is this, I don't get the word. You see, it is the very defective listening that has brought this ingredient which you call anger.
And this defective listening?
You see, if the listening is right there, so?
But the defective listening comes from where? Based on
the whole source, you see. So you have to go down and down and down and down, and you can never, you see, deal with these the fragmentary and truncated aspects of our thinking process. I don't know. Actually, there seems to be a difficulty here.
I thought that it's useful to go. I mean, to break it up into stages for the sake of explanation. I mean, merely to the thing is one process, but it may be useful to see several stages for the sake of communication. You see what I mean?
But then it is
only to
these stages are irrelevant.
Actually, everything one says will be irrelevant except that it will communicate something else. You see. But the point is, the first stage is just to experiment, and you can see the power of words in producing feelings like anger, and to see that by continually thinking about it, it gets worse. Do you see? I mean, that's one thing that sort of, see, if you actually see that, I see that by thinking about anger, it gets worse. And I try to control it, what?
You can't.
No, but I see
Take for instance your baby, You see, you get angry with your baby. You understand? Why do you get angry with your baby? You love her. You see, there is no adequate reason to be angry with your baby. Why? I handled your girl, you see, day after day for 10 days. I don't know. Why? What is the origin? Your relationship with the baby. What I am trying to point out is the breakup of the whole thinking process into its anatomical detail. Is it going to lead to the source? I see what you are trying to do.
I'm saying that there's something which we call anger. I think that we have to have a discernment of a certain difference. If there's something called anger which is not anger. You see, the word, when we use the word to say that something is anger, it already is the effect of the word. You see, that there's something which, say, when a man says he is angry, and he says, I'm trying to control it. I know, but he calls it anger. You see, that's the first.
But why does anger come into being at all?
It came further back. But I'm saying that first of all, he continues this anger by calling it anger. You see?
All right. You see, no, that is the naming process. You see, it's the same. So why does it originate at all? How does it originate?
I mean, do we know anything about what originates?
Yes. If you go into this problem of how the thought originates.
Yeah,
but when you are there, you see, I don't know. By following this, you see, this is the fundamental difficulty. You see, there is a technique. This is a technique, or a method, or a model, or an image which we hope to cross over the difficulty by following this.
No, I think that by no, if one thinks of it as a method, then this is going to be just adding more. I think if one could see, perhaps, that this whole way is not the way, by following some sort of thought process, then suddenly at a certain point something else may happen because you see that this whole process is irrelevant.
Yes, you see. One for anger, jealousy, it's pride, it's so many.
It doesn't matter what you
But
do.
is that the way we are going to break everything into its constituent elements? No. All right. You see. So do I see the irrelevance of going? You see into the whole the anatomy of the structure of this.
This is what one can perhaps see.
Perhaps you say.
How do
Perhaps
you
you say.
You see,
I suggest that, you see that may not be the way. Then if you don't put that question and say, why, do you have any other way?
No, you see, that very question is not the way. To ask, is there any other way, is not the way.
So first I must see that this is not the way. It's because this is not leading me anywhere. I will go on year after year, year after year, year after year. Whether I turn that into a method or a technique, you see, it's, how am I going to deal with the problem of anger? If not anger, there is jealousy. If not jealousy, there is power, possession, you see, and everything, every movement of my thought.
Well,
as long as there is a movement of my thought, you see, it is this movement, a wave, you see, that is creating all these the problems. I think I explained that.
Yes,
the moment the thought, you see, it comes in, it destroys, not that this destroying process, it's a simultaneous process. So what I am left with is only a feeling, which is neither anger, nor jealousy, nor envy, nor greed, nor pity, nor kindness. It's none of those things. But yet, you see, if this thing does not take its birth at all, there is always, you see, a state of the awareness.
One sees this very clearly. Go on, then. I just wanted to say that, you see, this is the same difficulty that arises in the tent.
Yes.
Let us suppose, just for the sake of an example, there is this man there saying certain things.
Right.
Now, the people listening are meeting what he says, with their images, all of us. Just for the sake of listening. Now, here you are saying a certain thing. You're talking about anger and asking where does this arise and what is it. But each of us, say, for the sake of communication, is meeting this in a certain way, with still caught in the image of the word of the thought. So you see, you say that this fragmentary approach is not the way. But I, for instance, say, yes, I can see that this is not the way. Then tell me a way. So once more, it's the same thing, you see. We want another way.
No, just listen. You see, seeing that this is not the way, you see, the irrelevancy of this, you see, doing one after the other, to break up these, you see, they are all one, they are not separate things.
Of course.
You see, by following this method, it's one after the other, it will take years and years and years, and so I push it to my next life, and life,
Anyway,
and so on and so
you
on.
never finish because you're adding all the time.
Yes. So this is perhaps seeing this, you see, the irrelevancy of this kind of a
Well,
business.
this is what David's trying to do. You see, there are these two different approaches. There's the approach...
They're not so different. They're not two different approaches.
No, but I'm only trying to say, what is the language for discussing this irrelevancy? You see, the point is that I say that it seems to me the difficulty in thought comes in the following. The thought begins to make a description of its own, whatever it's doing, and this description is separated from the described. You see, this is the observer and the observer. See, when the observer and the observed come to the thought, then the thought doesn't die, awareness doesn't get rid of it, but it keeps on going. You see, that's, as I say, the difficulty. Now, why does it keep on going? You see, because let's suppose something happens for an unknown reason. We have some thought. Thought starts to come in to try to look at this thought, to make a description of it, to say what is it so I can deal with it. And if it describes it, say, as anger, then the description made by the second thought is added. It comes in to confuse the issue because it comes from a memory, you see, as some structure. And now the problem has changed because, the situation has changed because now the situation is that we are faced with a thought which is describing anger and which is actually the same as the description, but there's another thought which says that the two are different, that there's an observer who is doing the describing and that the anger is observed, you see, and therefore it seems to be like the chair or the table. See, the table is something that I could get up to and change if I want to. It's an object. So in the same way, I'm treating my anger as an object, you see. This is where but anger is not an object, and this is where the difficulty comes in. So then there seems to be the conflict between the subject and the object. The subject wants to control the anger, and the object is the anger, you see. So it seems to me that what has happened is that we have learned a certain way of thinking which is relevant in a certain field, which is that table I can treat as different from me for technical purposes, so I can go up to the table and change it. You see what I mean? Now, therefore, when something happens in the way of thought, a similar idea arises that this can be controlled by more thought. So more thought comes in to try to make it better, and this comes by our training. The children, when they show emotions, their parents tell them to control them. You see, they say, "Don't do this. Don't be a bad boy," and so on. So you see, very early we learn to make this separation between the description and the described. You see, the boy says, I am a bad boy, but I want to be a good boy. So therefore, those words create this impression that there are two. The good boy is trying to overcome the bad boy, you see. So and therefore this drama is going on inside of the good boy fighting the bad boy, and the bad boy may win, and so on. You see, now. So I say that you have something to communicate, and we are trying to find a language. See, the purpose of this language is not analysis. It is not a technique or to analyze the difficulty and make a technique, but rather it's to make a description and to say the description is not the described, you see, but the description may be relevant, but one must perceive where it's relevant. You see, if I say I describe the mountain, you see, the description is not the mountain, but it is necessary to perceive the mountain directly. After the description calls your attention to the mountain, but then after that the description is dropped if it's not necessary. So
we do drop the description.
So I say the purpose of communication of language is not to convey what you have over here to me, but rather if we can find a description which will be relevant for what you want to, for this topic of discussion, it is then be relevant to all of us, you see. If it's relevant to you, then it would be relevant to all of us, and we would all see what you're talking about. Then we would drop the description at that very moment, and then we would see what would happen. Do you see what this is the question, to discover a language which will do it.
Yeah, but why do I make that into an object and then manipulate with it?
Which this?
No, the anger.
I say because of habit, because I've been trained.
No, not because of habit.
Well, I've been trained to try to be better. You see, to try to.
Well, why does it split itself first? It's into two.
I think that's because of the way we are using thought. You see, we are using a form of thought which makes.
No. If the separation is not there, it burns you.
Yes, but
if it burns you, see. So the whole structure is collapsing there.
Yeah, but an irrelevant form of thought comes in to create the separation.
No, that is, you see, no, that is still relevant.
Right?
Self-protecting itself.
Yes, as long as the self-protection is there, it divides, it separates the object.
But self-protection is irrelevant beyond a certain point. You see, there may be the notion of protecting the body, you see, which is instinctive, and thought comes in to express that or formulate it by saying I am protecting myself. But that thought has a bigger meaning, a greater meaning, because it also means I must protect myself mentally.
It seems to me that they are prepared to abandon irrelevancies only when we have something relevant in hand.
Well, that's relevant. That's irrelevant.
Yes, but this is the way we just go on.
We're trained for that
We
way.
we're trained that way. But you see, there are some people that don't go on. I mean, not
Is there any other way? Is there any other way?
not because
No, is there any other way other than, you see, the process that which we have been doing through centuries?
You see, I think to ask
Is there any other way?
I think to ask that very question is the wrong question.
Why?
Because the reaction or the response to that question is to
No, I'm not asking that question.
No, I'm just saying
Yes.
what happens to me, say, when this question is posed, is there any other way?
Yes.
Then the mind, thought comes in to look for a way, you see, because the habit or language or whatever is searching for a way the whole time. It sees this is not the way and that's not the way, but it can't stop.
All right.
At this moment, it doesn't stop and say, well, all right, I don't know whether there's a way. Perhaps there's no
No,
way.
it will never stop because it's a dialectical thinking about thinking itself. You see? So it is not going to stop that way. Then why do I pursue that if that is not going to? See, still I have a hope somehow, somewhere along the line. You see? I hope you see, so I go on and on and on and on. You see, this I think is a clarity of thought. You see, you are clarifying thought more and more and more. At the same time, you see, the process is sharpening the whole business and making it more and more difficult. I don't know.
It communicates very well.
See, doesn't it make it more and more difficult? So then what am I going to do? You see, it's the dialectical thinking about thinking itself, you see. And then we go into the phrases and the phrase structure and the origin of the words and date back, you see, and so on and on and on, and the linguistic analysis, and it leads us nowhere.
But can we put that question, what am I going to do, in a different way, which perhaps doesn't call forth the response? Perhaps instead of saying, what am I going to do, can one say, is there anything to be done? I mean, I don't know. This is a question I've asked myself in the tent. And it seems to present a different, it opens, you see, instead of it being a closed thing of what am I going to do, always I, which is a line, one line, I doing this, I do, you know. Perhaps it's a more open question which opens up, you know, is there anything at all to be done? I mean, you know, someone could consider
Do I
this.
stop there?
I don't know. Perhaps one just stops for a while.
I understand, you see, I understand the very fallacy of putting that question. But at the same time, who is putting this question? Is there any relevancy of this to this question or not?
I don't know what to call you. What do I call you?
You come using case already.
Yuji, I think, you see, this is one of the things that happens with Krishnamurti.
We have picked up all that.
No, that's what not what I wanted to say. That's not what I wanted to say.
I'm not saying it in a derogatory sense, please.
That's not what I wanted to say.
It has become part of our thinking.
So that's
It has become part of our experience. And so you see, it has become impossible for us, you see, to go beyond this, this process of thinking.
Yes, but this is what I wanted to say with the connection, is that I think you are going too fast. When you say, you know, do we stop there, as though you're expecting me to move, maybe for a while one has to stop there, just there, and see what happens.
But you have to stop it. You see, you are moving away.
This is
true. Is it not possible for you to stop at least with that question and not go into that? Is it not why have I put this question? Who has put this question? That seems to me irrelevant. All right, having committed, you see, the series of irrelevancies, I have come to this point of putting at least a so-called relevant question to myself. So,
is it relevant? Is it irrelevant?
I don't know, let's call it relevant or irrelevant. All questions are irrelevant, you see, to me, as long as there is a questioner.
See, this is what one has to see. When I ask,
where do I begin? Somewhere I must
question relevant.
No, but as long as the questioner is there, all questions are relevant to you and they are irrelevant to me, and so we go on. What you call relevant is irrelevant to me, what I call is irrelevant. As long as there is a questioner, the questioner, the very presence of the very questioning process is irrelevance. It's all right. The question somehow has arisen in me. The question somehow has formulated itself inside of me. The questioner is there. If I can possibly stop with that question, one question only, formulate this question, the fundamental question, and any attempt on my part to move away, the whole process of going into the question or trying to break through the relevancies or otherwise of this question, maybe, I see the impossibility of staying with this question, because there is bound to be a moment. There is bound to be a movement away from the question. And because you see, that is bringing the questioner to an end. Yeah. That is the death. You see,
that's the one question we won't question.
The question that means the death. You see, the ending of the whole structure inside you collapses. And so I have to go into it and try to. Why is the very question is a fallacy? And so I'm moving away. I don't know, what am I to do? See, the hopelessness, you see. It is so hopeless. The whole situation is such a desperate thing, but you see, to do anything, if you call it a despair, and you can create an existentialist philosophy, you see, and tremendous structure of thinking. But what am I to do? What am I to do about this? What am I to do about this, you see? No, the question is bound to be there. The question is bound to be there because the questioner is there. I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud, you see. It's like, the snake is eating its own tail. It goes on and 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 on. And I'm never tired of giving this analogy.
Well, I tell you what, this has a graduate student who is quite a remarkable person. He was here now, he's gone. And, she says, go up. He'd put everybody on skis. You see? On skis, there's no time for thought to come in. If you see, that's it, you're finished.
Yes.
You see? And this is just a joke, but this is really, she solves the question. There's no question, therefore there's no solution. One sees it. So therefore...
We don't see. We don't see. We interaction. The seeing is the release.
You can't say one thing, but it's there.
The seeing is the release. The immediate, you see. That's the death. You see here this key, you see, you are absorbed, you see, you are lost, the self-losing, self-forgetful process, because you see that is necessary to maintain this momentum, The self cannot afford to come into operation, so it has to absorb itself into the movement. It doesn't mean that it is movement itself. You see, it has assumed the momentum, the Niels Bohr and Max Planck, the motion and the fact of, I don't want to go into this, it's silly for me to talk about all that. And I think we're talking. What time is it?
Yeah, it's very late. Aren't you tired? You must be very tired. They slept all day, I'm still telling you.
When are you leaving?
Wednesday.
When is Krishnaji leaving? Is he going to England?
Yes. He's leaving in Pakistan.
I understand you are going to play a very important role in the school. And
I don't know where this, all sorts of stories come to our ears. We know nothing about this. You care about yourself.
It's full of rumors, this place.
This is one of the troubles.
I don't really want to play a very big role. I would probably to discuss something, not to have some advisory or discussing role, but I'm really too busy to
give any time.
Well, to really engage in any
director.
Yeah, no, I couldn't.
Do you want to throw your life into it?
Well, I have my own scientific work that interests me.
You see, the best thing now that Dave's work is getting more Well,
You have a lot of teaching work or pure research work?
It's mostly research. I do some teaching.
but it's not because of that so much, but because the work is also,
It's the same question. It's the
one doesn't know where this
of describing itself.
It's very interesting.
What has to change?
It has to change.
Very structural.
Yeah, that's right. Science must change. You see. And therefore, but it is a content on which you can work to see the change of language. You see very clearly. But I think that on all issues depends on the change of language and the whole structure of the form of the language. And in science, you can see it clearly, like in the case of Einstein. You see, but I think one has to go much further. And all this business you talk about, I think, is irrelevant.
But it has its own relevancy within the framework.
Within a framework, but it's limited relevance. Let's put it that way. It's very limited. But people get excited about it because they can do all sorts of things with it, like spaceships and so on. But anyway, see, if the language of science would change, then I think this would be...
It will facilitate
things.
And it will be a tremendous contribution instead of the technological, only the technological aspect.
Yes, that's really wrong.
Perhaps the change has
I think we are not far from that. You see, the moment we arrive at a point where...
Yes, a lot of things are happening now. To stress any one side is making a thing out of it, isn't it? Here, when we're in this
atmosphere,
there's a tendency to stress one particular. I mean, they've been talking about it because there are no words, and it's not even necessary. The change has to come everywhere, and it can come in many ways. I think that Dave was saying that they had a conference in Cambridge just before coming here, and just sort of rather a narrow level maybe, but this they were talking just about quantum theory, but it was just this language question.
Yes. It occurred to me, quantum, but I didn't want to go into it. But I don't know how the scientists react to your approach. I'm sure they're talking in the same time.
Well, we got several. You see, when we started the conference, it wasn't a great deal of confusion, but first of all, as people began to see the relevance of this as it went on, and we had discussions with particular individuals, you see, and there we went into the question, and I think that one or two of them saw it very clearly, and see, the thing was so striking that when brought up the point, this man remained silent for about 5 minutes. I couldn't tell exactly, but you see, it really changed his whole...
You still could contact them, you see, on a different level.
Well, the point is, he saw, you see, if any man is serious about his work, then he will listen and discuss seriously. See, the main point is that if somebody is serious, he will have the energy which is needed for communication. The difficulty is most people are not very serious, you see.
They're all islands shouting across. That's the ocean of misunderstanding.
And just here where perhaps one should be serious, there is so much going on, so many opinions and so much socializing that it's...
The great avenue open there for you in the scientific field. Maybe, I don't know. It will take away a lot of your energy.
Well, one should be together.
My hope is that they might be related, and that I would mostly take part in just simply in the form of discussion. But you see, I hope that I won't get involved in administration or anything like that. You see.
Today won't he won't even take administration as a unit.
It's going to be a very small school, elementary school in the beginning, I suppose.
Well, I think they're thinking in terms of a small school at the beginning. But all these questions, I think, are going to be discussed now.
It's not yet been settled yet, but I think
The first thing is to
very
get a
flexible.
degree of communication.
There seems to be a lot
Because
of
otherwise, what does it all mean? You see?
a great deal of communication gap even amongst those who want to organize the whole thing.
Well,
This is not surprising, is it?
No, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm only surprised why Krishnaji is very keen about the school now. I don't know.
right.